Chapter 141, The Right Leg Bone of the Vicious Beast Emerald Dragon. I won't. The spirit bone your sister left behind? Holy crap, what's going on here? Tianmeng had noticed the dark green torso bone too. Its aura was completely different from the rest. After 10,000 years of suppression by the golden tree's bright life aura, the evil taint on the soul-eating spider emperor's torso bone had been nearly cleansed. The emperor's origin aura had mostly dissipated, leaving only scattered fragments. Shiji nodded slowly, then explained. My sister and I grew up together. She was always stronger than me. She became a 100,000-year spirit beast, nearly 8,000 years before I did. We weren't particularly affectionate. She bullied me a lot. Still, she did protect me to an extent. Don't ask why someone like me, already over 90,000 years, would need protection. The truth is she had no sense and kept attracting opponents far too powerful for us to handle. Shiji didn't lie. When she first recognized the origin on that spirit bone, she had been shaken, not by fear so much as by grief for what had been lost. Maybe, for a time, she had felt genuine affection for her sister. But that flicker of warmth vanished the moment she learned her sister's true intention. Cannibalism among the same clan is rare in the spirit beast world, but the soul-eating spider clan was the exception. If a 100,000-year soul-eating spider emperor activated the clan's innate secret technique, soul-eating, and perfectly devoured another 90,000-year emperor of the same clan, the devourer's cultivation would surge as if it had gained tens of thousands of years of practice. Soul-eating could fuse the origins of same clan beasts, producing an effect far greater than ordinary devouring. Shiji's sister planned to devour her when Shiji was on the verge of breaking through to 100,000 years, or when she was weak after surviving her 100,000-year heavenly tribulation, thereby vaulting herself into the vicious beast realm. Rakshasa god Bibidong had interrupted that plan. Now only a spirit bone remained to testify the sister's existence. Shiji's face slowly smoothed back to composure. Shu Yan, don't just stand there. Grab treasures. I sense several things nearby that would be useful to you. If you dawdle, that limit Douluo outside will probably detect something wrong. With a limit Douluo posted outside, and without two mental-type vicious beasts plus Elakes, the legendary cheat, they would have little choice but to hide and hope not to be discovered. Shu Yan nodded and swept his gaze through the space, scanning treasures hardly seen in the outside world. Then he thought of a quicker way. Old Mu, he asked, is there a right leg bone from a spatial dragon in this treasury, one left behind after its death? Muen, waiting outside, mulled for a moment before answering, yes, about 70 meters behind you. Shu Yan didn't hesitate. He flew back and soon spotted the silver-white spirit bone suspended quietly in midair. It looked jade-like, with an unknown green liquid flowing within it. Silver and clear light interwove, giving off a cool, tranquil grace, an impression surprisingly gentle for a dragon's bone. Still, Shu Yan felt a potent, pure dragon might in it, one that subtly resonated with his bloodline. If I'm not mistaken, Snow Empress murmured, this is a vicious beast spirit bone, roughly 290,000 years old. The dragon that produced it would have been one of the last pure-blooded true dragons of the clan, comparable to Detian. Shu Yan's thoughts snapped into place. A spatial dragon? He said. A bloodline this strong can only be the Emerald Dragon, a direct descendant of the spatial dragon king. A spatial, pure-blood true dragon that's been extinct in the continent's records for ages, the last legacy of an ancient dragon king. The spatial dragon king was one of the dragon clan's 9 great dragon kings, the Emerald Dragon King. As a descendant of that bloodline, the Emerald Dragon enjoyed status within the clan comparable to Detian's, a true direct descendant. This kind of spirit bone in the Shrek treasury, Ice Empress murmured, contemplating the bone's origin. It's hard to pin down, but it's evidence of how deep Shrek Academy's legacy is. Over the past 10,000 years, they've produced 7 divinity. More than 10 limit Douluo have appeared, and countless super Douluo. The Academy's accumulations across eras run very deep. This vault must hold many high-quality spirit bones. Shu Yan interrupted her elaborate reasoning. True dragons had once existed in the Star Do Great Forest, but by this age their numbers had dwindled. Shu Yan had even seen a legend about a beast god going mad, perhaps connected to those true dragons. You planning to take this bone? Snow Empress asked. Shu Yan scanned the vault one last time. If nothing else appears, I'll take it. I've seen a lot here, but very little is useful to me. This emerald dragon right leg bone is one of the best. I'll later obtain a secret technique spirit right leg bone and fuse it with my existing thorn dragon right leg bone. I can feel the emerald dragon that produced this bone was a step away from 300,000 years when it died. After fusion, I'll effectively have a 300,000-year emerald dragon right leg bone. Snow Empress considered it and nodded. That sounds right. I've been looking too. Most of these treasures aren't worth your time. This bone is one of your best choices. Everyone fell silent, except Tianmeng, who suddenly piped up with curiosity. Yan, you said before you planned to hunt 2 divine beasts. Divine beasts produce spirit bones too, right? Shu Yan waited for him to continue. Tianmeng coughed, blushing slightly. What I mean is, 2 divine beasts will produce at least 2 divine rank spirit bones. Your bone slots are almost full. How will you arrange those later? His question caught the attention of the others. Tianmeng had a knack for hitting the core issues. Shu Yan thought for a moment, then answered softly. Honestly, I don't value those divine rank bones that much. In the end, we can't persuade those 2 divine beasts. They're bound to be enemies. After killing them, the bone parts they leave will be random. We could control it if we wanted, but it's unnecessary. The main benefit of divine rank bones for humans is their huge boost to physical attributes and bloodline power. But I have so many ways to replace those effects that the practical gain for me isn't significant. You've been with me long enough to know that. All the bones I carry are top tier. Once I become a divinity, the bones on me will evolve into divine rank. At most, the only bones on me that might be slightly inferior to what those divine beasts could produce after rising to divine rank are Shiji's right arm bone and the swallowing sea whale emperor's left leg bone. So I don't really need those new divine rank bones. Bones are best when they fit the user. If they don't, I can keep them and give them to my descendants or allies. Besides, if one of those divine beasts drops a right arm bone or a left leg bone, then we'll have to trouble Shiji. He finished with a teasing tone, and Shiji, who had been watching, blew up. Shu Yan, you fickle bastard, she shouted. That right arm bone I gave you was an extreme evil right arm bone with a lifespan of 500,000 years. If it evolves to divine rank, it won't be worse than what those 2 divine beasts could produce. You idiot, I was blind to get on your pirate ship. Heartless scoundrel, go to hell, boo-hoo-hoo. Watching Shiji's theatrical meltdown, Shu Yan felt a headache coming on. Since they were still in the Shrek treasury, he couldn't comfort her properly, so he said, All right, don't cry. We can talk about this later, okay? Don't worry, if I become a divinity, I won't let you suffer. At his promise, Shiji snapped out of her broken state and wiped her tears, though streaks still ran down her cheek. You promise, right? When you become a divinity, find me a suitable god position or make me one of the top-tier divinity. I was your first. Don't men favor their first woman? Besides, if you try anything to me, where could I run? She stuck out her tongue and licked her lips in a deliberately flirtatious way, striking a playful, bad woman pose. Snow Empress's mouth twitched. She couldn't imagine herself so casual with Shu Yan. Ice Empress glanced at Snow Empress and pursed her lips. Something about Snow Empress had felt off lately. Let's leave, Snow Empress said after a pause. We can discuss this later. Shu Yan nodded. He wrapped the emerald dragon right leg bone in spatial power, called Muen, and in a flash of golden light reappeared before him. Have you chosen? Muen asked with a smile. He wasn't surprised by Shu Yan's pick. A vicious beast-level true dragon bone like this was a treasure that could overshadow an academy. Yes, Elder Mu. I'll take this emerald dragon right leg bone, Shu Yan said lightly, producing the certificate Muen had once given Shu Hong and handing it back. Muen waved a hand. The card's golden patterns faded. Then he returned it. Top-tier VIP treatment at the treasure-gathering pavilion is what you've earned, Muen said. No need to refuse. Shu Yan stored the card in his spirit tool and followed Muen up the stairwell out of the underground vault. Back in the Sea God Pavilion's lobby, Shu Yan immediately noticed 2 familiar figures waiting at the entrance. Han Ruoruo and Zhang Lexuan. They had clearly been there for some time and hurried over when they sensed activity. Up close, they spotted Mu En sitting in a wheelchair in the shadows. "Elder Mu," Zhang Lexuan called, winking at her friend as she approached. Han Ruoruo, having heard from Shu Yan about this dragon Douluo who'd once shaken the continent for over 100 years, felt thrilled and a little nervous at seeing him in person. "No need for formalities," Mu En said gently. He had always been kindly toward juniors. Han Ruoruo, now the most talented student in the inner courtyard, had potential rivaling Zhang Lexuan after her 100,000-year 8th ring breakthrough. Even if she never became a limit Douluo, she had prospects to reach rank 98 Super Douluo. Mu En's voice carried nostalgia and regret as he spoke. "Back then, your great-grandfather and I were friends. After those events, I was gravely injured, paralyzed, and went into seclusion. He passed away in an accident, and we never met again." Limit Douluo were the strongest fighters below divinity. They lived several hundred additional years on average, but that was no protection against accidents and the slow attrition of time. Mu En's memories weighed on him. Hanruo listened quietly. The gentle, uncle-like Mu En calmed and steadied her. Zhang Lexuan, meanwhile, shot Shu Yan a playful, curious look that seemed uncharacteristically lively, an ease and freedom that suggested invisible shackles had been removed. Shu Yan considered this change and smiled, then turned his gaze away. Chapter 142, Daily Warmth and Zhang Lexuan's Decision to Refine the Fairy Grass. By the time he returned from Sea God Island, it was completely dark. Zhang Lexuan had been kept behind by Mu En. It seemed he had something to tell her. Perhaps Mu En's past decisions had been a mistake that had bound Zhang Lexuan for years, but his care and raising of her since childhood were undeniable. Now that he had realized his error, he personally removed the shackles he had put on her and completely restored her freedom. That, in itself, settled a long-standing worry. Zhang Lexuan also seemed to have come to terms with it. Given her personality, she would not meddle in other people's relationships. Besides, cultivating diligently had to be her priority now. Otherwise, she might eventually be overtaken by Han Ruoro, whom she had always outpaced. There was always a bit of rivalry between best friends that applied to both Zhang Lexuan and Han Ruoro. Warm, soft light spilled through the room, casting halos everywhere. Shu Yan lay on a plush sofa, his legs resting across Ling Luochen's fair thighs. Ling Luochen's slightly cool hands massaged his temples. Han Ruoro and Wu Ming fussed nearby with a plate of fruit. The two best friends, unwilling to be outdone, practically forced fruit into Shu Yan's mouth until he was nearly choking in Ling Luochen's arms. Looking at Han Ruoro and Wu Ming's contrite faces, Shu Yan sighed, sat up slowly from Ling Luochen's embrace and said, "Don't do that again. I'm not Xuanzi. If you keep feeding me like that, you'll choke me someday." Wu Ming burst out laughing. "You're teasing Xuanzi for being a glutton, but you're not wrong. That Xuanzi, when it comes to food, he's the final authority in Shrek. No one eats like him." Indeed, when it came to eating, no one at Shrek Academy matched Xuanzi. He was practically a legend. Some joked that he was the only Super Douluo who could take out scores of inner courtyard students just by his appetite. Han Roro's expression clouded for a moment, remembering some unpleasant incident, but she quickly brightened. "Yan, didn't you say you needed my help earlier?" Shu Yan nodded. "Roro, I need you to help me get a 10,000-year secret method spirit bone for the right leg. I asked Mu En earlier. Shrek Academy doesn't have one for that limb." Given how close they were, there was no need for formality. Han Roro considered for a moment. "Secret method spirit bones are rare. I'll ask around first. If we can't find one, I'll have someone try to craft one." As long as spirit beasts could be procured, crafting a secret method spirit bone was possible. The problem was the success rate. Shu Yan smiled wryly. "Shrek City has countless auction houses. We'll find something soon enough. Making one is too cruel. Let's avoid that unless absolutely necessary." Han Ruoro nodded. Wu Ming, who had been quiet, piped up at that moment. "By the way, Shu Yan, why do you need a secret method spirit bone? They're low quality with nasty side effects. Apart from their fusion property, I don't rate them." Her own question answered itself. Shu Yan smiled and explained softly, "I recovered a 290,000-year emerald dragon right leg bone from the vault beneath the Sea God Pavilion. It's the pure bloodline legacy of the spatial dragon king. My current right leg bone is from a 10,000-year thorn dragon. You said secret method bones have the fusion property. If I can fuse the two, I'll end up with a 300,000-year emerald dragon right leg bone. That's why I need a secret method one. Wu Ming inhaled sharply. Han Ruruo and Ling Luochen were also visibly stirred. Since when has the Academy been giving away vicious beast spirit bones like that? Wu Ming murmured. The highest tier spirit bone she'd ever seen had been the Holy Light torso bone at a joint auction. Spirit bones over 100,000 years old seemed almost otherworldly to her. Shu Yan grinned. It wasn't a random giveaway. It was a favor Shrek owed my family from my grandfather's generation. Besides, Mu En wanted to help me cultivate, which made obtaining this super spirit bone possible. Han Roro added, while Ling Luochen's brow tightened as something occurred to her. Mu En? Which elder is that at the Sea God Pavilion? Inner courtyard students knew Sea God Island's reputation, and though few could enter the Sea God Pavilion, they understood that its elders were formidable. Ling Luochen, however, couldn't recall an elder named Mu. The name sounded familiar, as if she'd heard it before. Shu Yan didn't bother to hide it. Mu En is the current Sea God Pavilion Master, a 99th level limit Douluo. His spirit is the Light Holy Dragon. His title, Douluo, is Dragon God. He's descended from the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan. His spirit likely mutated from a pure-blooded Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon. Wu Ming and Ling Luochen's pupils constricted. They hadn't expected Mu En to be a limit Douluo, effectively invincible in the world. As inner courtyard students, they knew Sea God Island had deep roots, but they hadn't imagined Shrek Academy actually had a living limit Douluo among its elders. For cultivators at Spirit King and Spirit Emperor levels, a 98th ranked Xuanzi was already a mountain to climb. A 99th level limit Douluo was on an entirely different plane. After a moment's shock, Ling Luochen recovered first. A distant memory returned to her, and she said with surprise, I remember now. There is a branch of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan said to descend from that Grandmaster and Dean Lu Erlong from 10,000 years ago. That pair of cousins ended up together despite social conventions. Their line eventually returned to the Blue Lightning clan, but they didn't inherit the clan's Yu surname. Instead, they kept their mother's surname. She paused, then added, My grandfather once had an encounter with that clan. He learned about it by chance. The three women nodded. Shu Yan, unable to resist Wu Ming's curiosity, told them some stories about Elder Mu. They listened eagerly. Before long, the moon was high and silver in the sky, and the mood gradually softened. By the time Shu Yan realized what was happening, Wu Ming, the most direct of them, had already slid a hand into his embrace, groping playfully. Hey, if you want a story, just listen. What are you doing with your hands? Shu Yan scolded as he slapped her hand away. Wu Ming pouted. Her hands were still sticky from the fruit. She hadn't even thought to clean them before getting intimate. Han Roro laughed and pulled Wu Ming toward the upstairs bathroom. Minger, we'll bathe first. Ling Luochen, stay and chat with Ayan for a bit. Wu Ming looked back at Shu Yan with reluctance. She wanted time alone with him, but had never quite managed it. Except for one morning she'd bested Han Ruruo. She'd always been suppressed by her friend's stronger will. Over the years, Wu Ming had learned to obey Han Ruoro's lead, almost reflexively. She had schemes buried in her heart, but she still prioritized Han Ruoro's wishes. It was simply how their relationship had evolved. After Han Ruoro and Wu Ming left, Ling Luochen leaned in, sat on Shu Yan's lap, wrapped her arms around his neck, and kissed him before he could react. Shu Yan felt helpless and amused. These women really knew no restraint. Hadn't they seen he just fought with Xuanzi? He should be resting. Then again, he realized he wasn't that tired. He let himself relax and enjoy the moment, letting Ling Luochen take her pleasure. Several days passed quietly. Shu Yan ran into many acquaintances in the inner courtyard. They looked at him with a mixture of awe and admiration. He smiled and chatted with them briefly, then went about his affairs. Han Ruo had sent people to search for that secret method spirit bone in various corners of Shrek City, while she and the others refined the terrifying effects of the immortal herbs with Shu Yan's guidance. These immortal herbs had spent tens of thousands of years sedimented in the ice and fire yin-yang well. Each had a lifespan exceeding 50,000 years. Their medicinal effects were far more potent and fearsome than the early herbs Tangsan and the others had used. Without Shu Yan's guidance, the three women would have struggled to absorb them properly. When Han Roro was at the 8th ring, she absorbed an extra 100,000-year spirit ring above her level. She later fused with a 100,000-year spirit bone and had already reached the 84th rank then. Now, after much time in cultivation, Han Roro had long since reached the peak of the 85th rank and was seeking a breakthrough to the 86th. After refining the ink jade divine bamboo, a pure green sheen appeared on Han Roro's golden rope, and the light it emitted turned green gold. But moments later, all the green faded, leaving only the golden radiance of her spirit. Her spirit power rose by roughly 1.5 ranks. The ink jade divine bamboo's primary effects were on spirit refinement, with relatively little direct increase to spirit power. The subsequent Narcissus jade bone would be the main contributor to her advancement. Because both the ink jade divine bamboo and the Narcissus jade bone were mild immortal herbs, they didn't need to be fully refined separately. After Han Ruoro finished with the ink jade divine bamboo, Shu Yan immediately guided her through the Narcissus jade bone. While Han Ruoro refined hers, Shu Yan helped Wu Ming refine the scorching gel from the fire apricot and assisted Ling Luochen with the 8-petaled immortal orchid. Watching the three women's cultivation soar, Shu Yan nodded with satisfaction. In his spare moments, Shu Yan visited Zhang Lexuan again. Zhang Lexuan's cultivation had already reached the 88th rank, close to the titled Douluo realm. She had recently fused with a spirit bone. Without that, she would likely have been at 86th or 87th rank. Shu Yan presented her with a star radiance flower, a top-tier medicinal herb second only to immortal herbs, typically found near the top-tier Star Luo spirit pearl and especially beneficial for star-type spirits. Shu Yan wasn't given to generosity for its own sake. He gave Zhang Lexuan such a valuable herb not only because she was reliable, but because she would be one of the most influential people in Shrek Academy's future. Shu Yan intended to forge a new era. To reform Shrek Academy, he would need clear-headed talents like her. For an institution rooted in the old world, discarding the dross and retaining the essence was necessary for survival. Zhang Lexuan accepted his gift. She was astute enough to understand the gesture. Ever since Muen's words that night, Zhang Lexuan had already made up her mind. She needed to build a strong relationship with the future strongest figure on the continent, not only for herself, but for Shrek Academy, the home she'd grown up in. Gratitude and loyalty were basic conscience. She couldn't betray that. She inhaled deeply and looked at the bright silver moon outside the window, then down at the star radiance flower on the table, its specks of light like tiny stars. Her eyes hardened with resolve. A spirit Douluo could not hold too much sway in Shrek Academy. She would push to breakthrough to a titled Douluo. A titled Douluo under 30, even in Shrek Academy, was a rarity in history. Chapter 143, Everyone Improves. Spirit Fire Apricot, Wu Ming's strange attribute. Refining the effects of the immortal herb was not something that could be done overnight. Shu Yan planned to rest a few more days at Shrek Academy before hunting for his 6th spirit ring. He wasn't in a rush. It made sense to wait until everyone had fully absorbed the herb's benefits before setting off. Besides, after absorbing the immortal herb, Han Roro's spirit power would jump straight to the peak spirit Douluo. She would only need to successfully condense her first spirit core to become a titled Douluo. Wu Ming, after fusing with that 70,000-year spirit bone and the blazing gel, would see her golden crow spirit fully evolve into ultimate fire. Since her cultivation was already above rank 70, she wouldn't be constrained by the slow growth below that rank. She would immediately enjoy the accelerated cultivation that follows. Her breakthrough to Spirit Douluo had happened recently. Ling Luochen was in a similar situation. While Shu Yan helped her refine the 8-petaled immortal orchid, he was also refining the Snow and Ice Emperor origin within her. When everything finished, she would be able to transform her spirit into ultimate ice and push into the Spirit Emperor realm. Only 3 ultimate attribute spirit masters had appeared in 10,000 years. Now, 3 of them were concentrated in one inconspicuous wooden house. It was an astonishing fact. Shu Yan wasn't worried about the 3 spirit ring needs. Ling Luoqin's 6th ring was simple when she left the ice and fire yin-yang wang. Well, she'd taken the Snow Empress seal and brought back a 50,000-year plant-type spirit beast, the mysterious ice dragon vine, which grew near the octagonal mysterious ice grass. It would be a perfect 6th ring for Ling Luoqin. Han Roro would need a sea hunt for her 9th ring, and Wu Ming, Shu Yan already had plans. At worst, he could bring Wu Ming back to the ice and fire yin-yang well. The fire apricot and the phoenix coxcomb could both serve as excellent 8th and 9th rings. With the 300,000-year emerald dragon right leg bone in his possession, and the considerable improvement after obtaining the 7th ring, Shu Yan was confident he could achieve spatial teleportation over 1,000 kilometers. The trips wouldn't be too time-consuming. As it turned out, Shu Yan's predictions were right. After Han Roro refined the Ink Jade Divine Bamboo and the Water Muscle Jade Immortal Bone, her spirit power smoothly rose to the peak of rank 89. She only needed to condense a spirit core to become a titled Douluo, finally surpassing Zhang Lexuan, who had suppressed her for years. Wu Ming's golden crow transformed into an ultimate fire spirit. Her cultivation also steadily broke through the spirit Douluo threshold. The medicinal effects of the 2nd immortal herb she'd absorbed hadn't been fully taken in yet. After obtaining her 8th spirit ring, she could advance further. Ling Luoqin was last to emerge from seclusion. Her ice element officially became ultimate ice. The quasi-spirit emperor aura she displayed was not weaker than that of an ordinary low-rank spirit saint. Fighting above one's rank was something almost every ultimate spirit master could do. After giving the mysterious ice dragon vine to Ling Luoqin, Shu Yan instructed Han Roro to protect her, then immediately took Wu Ming and rushed back to the ice and fire yin-yang well. At a suitable site, he told Wu Ming to close her eyes. A brilliant silver light flashed and a spatial door opened. Shu Yan led the astonished Wu Ming through. When they emerged, they were in a valley that felt like a paradise. Wu Ming now had ultimate fire protecting her, so Shu Yan wasn't worried about the harsh elemental energies and toxins in the yin-yang well. Their arrival stirred the area. The 100,000-year plant spirits who had been enjoying a rare peace were startled awake. They nearly panicked until they saw Shu Yan smiling at them. All at once, calm returned. Shu Yan didn't waste many words. He'd already explained the yin-yang well situation to Wu Ming beforehand and was short on time. He announced his purpose plainly. The other immortal herbs relaxed at his words, but the fire apricot and the phoenix coxcomb both went pale. They exchanged glances, and no one dared speak for a long moment. Growing impatient, Shu Yan simply pulled Wu Ming in front of the fire apricot and said, without ceremony, "It's you. From now on, forget resistance and follow my arrangements. I'll make you into a spirit comparable to the octagonal mysterious ice grass." His tone brooked no argument. The fire apricot looked at the Snow Empress nearby, who toyed with her fingers, and at last made a decision against its instincts. A sensible creature bows to circumstances. This was not cowardice, it insisted. It was forced into it. Wu Ming watched Shu Yan's commanding manner, eyes bright. She'd grown used to the gentle, refined Shu Yan, and in this domineering guise, he made her legs go weak. A faint blush crept over her cheeks. For reasons she couldn't explain, she found herself wanting Shu Yan to speak to her in that same tone, to command her. The sensation of being fully possessed and ordered brought an odd, extreme comfort. The thought clicked into place, and she decided that when they returned, she'd coax Shu Yan and Han Roro into trying it. For her own pleasure, even if it meant candles and a little whip, she wasn't afraid. Shu Yan didn't notice Wu Ming's inner plotting. He switched to his Necromancer Saint Mage mode. Mysterious runes floated in the air, and a giant 6-pointed star formation glowed like a heavenly brand. The fire apricot's body was enveloped in a thick golden light. As the light condensed from tail to head, the plant's delicate form withered, leaving only a fiery red glowing seed that dropped into the soil where it had grown. The master-servant contract completed. The golden red halo, signifying the fire apricot's origin power and soul imprint, merged wholly with Wu Ming. Moments later, Wu Ming's original 7 spirit rings rose, and beyond them a blood-red 8th ring settled into place. The power of that single new ring seemed to dim the colors of the other 7 slightly. Shu Yan had signed a master-servant contract, not an equal spirit-soul pact. Wu Ming took this in stride. The fire apricot resented it, but the decision was final. The 100,000-year fire apricot contributed a 100,000-year fire remnant right arm bone. After fusing the spirit ring and spirit bone, Wu Ming's spirit power leapt to rank 84, comparable to Han Ruoro after her own fusion. When the fusion finished, a miniature fire apricot slowly flew from within Wu Ming's spiritual sea and hovered at her side. The earlier experiment with the octagonal mysterious ice grass had been rough. Due to their inexperience, Shu Yan and Ilakes had accidentally left the ice grass's soul in a deep sleep. This time, with the benefit of that first lesson, the fire apricot and Wu Ming fused smoothly. The apricot's spiritual origin was a little unstable and would need time to rest in Wu Ming's spirit sea to recover, but it retained enough consciousness to be summoned in battle when needed. Wu Ming stared at the little spirit hovering by her with delight. She felt the contract between them clearly. She could call the apricot to fight alongside her. Everything happened exactly as Shu Yan had promised. Shu Yan pinched Wu Ming's increasingly fair cheek. He always felt she was getting more radiant. Compared to the girl he first met, this Wu Ming had entered the realm of a top-tier beauty. After fusing her 8th ring, her figure grew even more striking, an alluring roundness and graceful curves that even Shu Yan had to admire. Wu Ming giggled, stood on tiptoe, kissed Shu Yan's cheek, and asked softly, "Is Heaven Do City very close to here?" Why?" Shu Yan's expression softened as he caught on. "Do you want to take a 2-person trip?" he teased. Wu Ming snorted lightly, then explained, "Yes, if I go back to the academy, Ruo Ro will supervise me again, and I'll have no freedom. Opportunities like this are rare. Shu Yan, you won't refuse me, will you?" For Wu Ming, either she took full initiative in relationships, or she wanted a partner even more assertive than herself who would take the lead. Shu Yan clearly fit the latter. "What do you think I'd refuse you for, Minger?" he said, ruffling her hair. Wu Ming didn't resist. It was pleasant rather than patronizing. What annoyed her slightly was how he had always called her senior sister. "Stop calling me senior sister. Among the 3 of us, you're the only one who does. Can't I have a different name?" Shu Yan grinned wryly. "How about Minger? Sound good?" Wu Ming considered, then nodded. "Just don't call me senior sister. It makes me feel like you don't care about me." She turned her head away, embarrassed. Despite being softened by affection, she was still blunt and honest by nature. Saying such things made her shy. It was clear she truly cared about Shu Yan. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been upset over a form of address. Shu Yan agreed to her small request. "All right, let's go visit Heaven Do City. If I remember right, your family lives nearby. We can pay them a visit." Wu Ming's eyes lit up. That was exactly what she wanted. As the spatial gate opened, she grabbed Shu Yan's hand and hurried through. A flash of silver light, and the ice and fire yin-yang flaith. Well was calm again. This time, the remaining 100,000-year plant spirits couldn't sleep. One by one, the octagonal mysterious ice grass and the fire apricot had been taken. For them, who had enjoyed a stretch of peace, it felt like their world had shifted. Shu Yan and Wu Ming spent 2 days in Heaven Do City before heading to the Wu family residence. The Wu family lived near the city. As a medium-sized spirit master family, their current patriarch, Wu Ming's father, had reached the spirit saint realm and had some local renown in the Tianhun Empire. The family's legacy spirit wasn't the Golden Phoenix. Wu Ming's Golden Phoenix was an advantageous mutation from the family's fire crane spirit. In the hierarchy of fire spirits, the fire crane wasn't top tier, more like a dependable advanced spirit rather than a prestigious one. Wu Ming's parents were easygoing and took to Shu Yan instantly. They seemed relieved, as if their daughter had finally found someone suitable. Her mother was particularly frank. She told Shu Yan bluntly that if Wu Ming ever acted up again, he should tell her and she'd break her legs. The threat was partly joking, but Wu Ming didn't dare argue. She clearly feared her mother. Shu Yan later learned that Wu Ming's mother had been even fierier in her youth and had once disciplined Wu Ming's father habitually. Wu Ming had grown up living in her mother's shadow. The thought of those thumb-thick green bamboos still made her flinch. Childhood trauma, indeed. Shu Yan and Wu Ming stayed 2 more days with the family. He handed over the medicinal herbs and heaven and earth treasures he'd meant for the elders and helped them refine and consume them. When everything was done, Shu Yan and Wu Ming planned their return to Shrek Academy. Though her parents were reluctant to let them go, they couldn't keep them. In the end, they only urged the couple to give them a grandchild soon. Wu Ming's mother even pressed a work into her daughter's hands. When Wu Ming examined it, her mind raced and a new world of possibilities opened. She signaled Shu Yan with her actions that she was willing to give him anything. The next day, when they set off, Wu Ming was so overcome she refused to walk a single step. Shu Yan carried her, and she whimpered playfully. By the time they reached the outskirts of Shrek City, she could walk again. Sensing his gaze, Wu Ming puckered her lips, then suddenly leaned close and whispered into Shu Yan's ear, "Actually, I think that might work too." Shu Yan's pupils narrowed. Lately, he had felt Wu Ming exhibiting something new, some strange, awakening attribute. He couldn't say exactly what it was, but it sent a small thrill through him. Chapter 144, back to Lingdo City, a stroll on the beach, and the 100,000-year-old Thunder Prison. When they returned to the inner courtyard, Han Ruoro and Ling Luochen were sitting in the living room, chatting. Both looked up with pleasant surprise when they saw Shu Yan and the others come in. "Yan, Minger, did everything go smoothly?" Han Ruoro sprang to her feet and asked first. Shu Yan nodded. Wu Ming giggled, hugged Han Ruoro's arm, and went on to eagerly recount their recent trip. She left out the little secret she shared with Shu Yan, the private world they had used together, which she had no intention of telling anyone else. Shu Yan sat back and watched the 3 girls tease each other with a quiet smile. He felt good. His 3 girlfriends were all extraordinary in their own ways. Han Ruoro was gentle and virtuous, Ling Luochen cool and aloof, and Wu Ming hot-blooded and passionate. Even he had to admit he felt lucky. After Wu Ming finished her tale, Han Ruoro turned to Shu Yan and asked softly, "Yan, now that things here are mostly settled, are you leaving again?" Shu Yan nodded and smiled. "This time I'll take Ruo with me. Minger and Luochen will stay at the academy. After all, the open sea is dangerous, and Luochen hasn't broken through to Spirit Saint yet." Wu Ming pouted, but nodded in understanding. Ling Luochen showed some regret, but accepted the situation. Land spirit masters were at a disadvantage on the vast ocean. It was the domain of sea spirit masters and spirit beasts. Without Spirit Saint-level power, Luochen couldn't fly and would be a burden at sea. Shu Yan's gaze landed on Han Ruo, and he continued quietly. "When we go, I'll first help Ruo condense her first spirit core and break through to titled Douluo. After that, it'll be the right time to acquire your 9th spirit ring." Han Ruo trusted Shu Yan completely and nodded without hesitation. The next day, Han Ruo left Shrek Academy with Shu Yan. They traveled swiftly and reached Lingdo City that afternoon. Yu Bingyan, Shu Junyu, and the others were surprised to see them back so suddenly. When Shu Yan explained their purpose, everyone was both shocked and delighted. Even Grandpa Han, who usually scowled at Shu Yan, found himself inexplicably more approving at that moment. Shu Yan distributed the immortal herbs and other items he'd prepared. Shu Hong's share, being in the military camp, was delivered by Shu Junyo. After consuming the immortal herb, Shu Yan prepared for him and the supreme grade 9-grade purple Ganoderma. Shu Hong's potential would be reawakened. Given time, he could reach Limit Douluo on his own. Yu Bingyan was another big beneficiary. She was already very close to titled Douluo, and with the Tears of Sacred Radiance herb, Shu Yan chose for her plus a portion of essence from the Coxcomb Phoenix Sunflower. Her spirit should evolve from an ordinary seraphim spirit into a sacred angel upon breakthrough, granting her Super Douluo level power. The herb Shu Junyu received was perfectly suited to him. It would greatly shorten his path to Super Douluo, and its unique darkness attribute was like the combined effect of 2 ordinary immortal herbs. As everyone celebrated their sudden gains, Shu Yan casually revealed he'd acquired 2 more girlfriends. The room fell silent. Then, Grandpa Han launched into a theatrical chase after Shu Yan, threatening to take him to the skies and fight him to the death. Only Han Ruoro's intervention calmed him down. The approval Grandpa Han had recently been warming toward Shu Yan evaporated in an instant. Yu Bingyan and Shu Junyo, both proponents of monogamy, scolded Shu Yan out of respect for Grandpa Han, though their anger was half playfulness. Yu Bingyan then pulled Han Ruoro aside. After hearing the story, she was momentarily at a loss. If Han Ruoro hadn't accepted Wu Ming and Ling Luochen, Yu Bingyan could have scolded Shu Yan and consoled her. But Han Ruoro had welcomed them and even become good sisters with them, leaving Yu Bingyan awkward about how to react. Han Ruoro laughed softly. "Aunt Yu, it's really fine. I think it's good this way. At least someone will be keeping an eye on Yan." Yu Bingyan tenderly stroked Han Ruoro's cheek and smiled. Then, half teasing, she said, "You shouldn't call me Aunt Yu anymore. Call me Mom." Han Ruoro's face flushed, but she was ready. "Mom." Hearing Han Ruoro's soft, sweet voice made Yu Bingyan's smile deepen. With such a daughter-in-law, she felt she'd never have to worry about Shu Yan again. On the other side, Shui Lin grilled Shu Yan, though she was older and more open-minded. She found Shu Yan's romantic nature useful. After all, the main bloodline had been single for a long time, and more partners meant more descendants. She urged him to bring Wu Ming and Ling Luochen back to Lingdo City to meet her soon. Shu Yan agreed. He wouldn't refuse his grandmother. After settling most matters in Lingdo City, Shu Yan spent more time helping Han Ruoro condense her first spirit core and break through to title Douluo. Once that was done, they didn't linger. Staying longer in Lingdo City was uncomfortable. Grandpa Han's resentful gaze made Shu Yan uneasy. Han Ruoro's parents, however, were more accepting after talking things through with her. Traveling northeast, Shu Yan and Han Ruoro reached a coastal city in the dueling empire. Barefoot on soft golden sand, they let the sea breeze wash over them. 2 crabs scuttled under coconut trees, and a few fishing boats dotted the distant horizon. "Yan, come help me with my zipper," Han Ruoro called from a nearby wooden hut, peeking out shyly. Shu Yan, bare-chested, grinned and went to zip up her white swimsuit. Since her secondary development, Han Ruoro had become undeniably voluptuous. Any glimpse of her smooth white skin could steal a person's breath. The suit itself was conservative, the least revealing of those the shop had recommended, but she still looked striking in it. Ruo, I'm starting not to want you to wear that out anymore," Shu Yan murmured, pulling her close and breathing warmly against her ear. Han Ruo felt ticklish and blushed, pressing her hand to his chest. "Don't be ridiculous," she said, half embarrassed. "If you don't want me to wear it, I'll change back into my dress." "What does 'don't be ridiculous' mean? You have to tell me first." Shu Yan teased, leaning in. Han Ruoro closed her eyes as if to accept a kiss. After a moment, though, nothing happened. She opened her eyes to find his playful smile. Realizing she'd been toyed with, she scowled, pushed him away, and huffed, "You bad man! If you won't kiss me, fine! Who wants your kiss anyway? I have plenty of admirers." Shu Yan chuckled and took her hand as she tried to walk off. She half resisted, then gave in, and they walked along the shoreline together. The sky, the sea, the sand, the white gulls, like a picture from a dream, but it was real. Surrounded by beauty in each other, both felt moved. "Yan, wouldn't it be wonderful if this moment could last forever?" Han Ruoro's voice drifted on the breeze. Shu Yan paused and smiled. "It'll only get better. We have all the time in the world to explore it. When we finish this world, we'll go to the next." Han Ruoro turned to him and smiled, irresistibly charming. "Then, you'll have to work hard. At least I can't do the things you do." "I will," Shu Yan said with quiet determination. To protect the people and things he cared about, he would press forward no matter the danger. Han Ruoro pouted. "All right, don't be so serious. If possible, I'd rather we just live peacefully like this. Also, be happy. You and Ming'er had fun when you were traveling, right? With scenery like this and me around, aren't I worth a little extra happiness?" She stuck out her tongue playfully, full of charm. "Of course you are. The luckiest thing in my life was meeting you, Ruo," Shu Yan replied with a laugh. "I like hearing that. Come on, let's go play in the water. We still have to travel tonight." She yanked him toward the sea, laughing. Shu Yan stopped laughing for a second at the "we still have to travel tonight" remark, Was she serious? She noticed his odd expression, splashed some seawater at him, and then reassured him. I was kidding. We'll find a good place to rest tonight and leave tomorrow. She emphasized rest especially hard. As Yu Bingyan had warned at the academy, when Han Ruoro was fully committed, she was formidable. She could hold off Wu Ming and Ling Luochen combined for a while. The night passed under bright stars. Early the next morning, before sunrise, Shu Yan and Han Ruoro flew out over the deep sea. Once fully into deep waters, Sheiji and Heavenly Dream activated their spirit detection. Their goal this time wasn't to hunt the deep-sea demon Whale King. It was to find a suitable 100,000-year sea spirit beast for Han Ruoro. The sea had far more and far stronger ancient spirit beasts than the land. The ocean's vastness and brutal competition allowed only the strongest to survive. After a short search, Shiji spoke first. Shu Yan, 50 kilometers northwest, there's a 100,000-year thunderhell manta ray. It's very suitable for your big girlfriend. Heavenly Dream added, Shiji's right. This is a rare lightning attribute variant. Its combat power exceeds a normal 100,000-year sea spirit beast. Water conducts electricity, so be careful if you fight it. If you plan to let Snow Empress act, then ignore my warning. A sharp glint flashed in Shu Yan's eyes. No need for Snow Empress. We'll handle it ourselves. Be careful then, Snow Empress said. The Thunderhell Manta Ray is a manta variant that lives in the pitch-black deep sea year-round. Its lightning attribute ranks among the top for sea spirit beasts. Legend says they have a trace of pure thunder dragon bloodline, which is why they differ from ordinary manta rays. I don't know how they acquired that blood, but your Yazi spirit will have an innate suppression over it. I'll monitor you constantly and intervene if necessary. Shu Yan nodded, called to Han Ruoro, and together they headed northwest. Chapter 145, Instant Kill. 80,000-year demon spirit great white shark skull and a 10,000-year relic. 50 kilometers was nothing for them. In no time at all, Shu Yan and Han Ruoro reached the domain of the Thunder Hell Manta. That one's about 3,000 meters down. I don't recommend fighting it in the deep. Environmental factors and pressure will be against you. Oh, and watch the sting on its tail. The toxin targets internal organs. You might be able to shrug off a wound, but if your big girlfriend gets hit, you'll have to work a lot harder. Sheiji rattled off lazily from inside Shu Yan's spirit sea, not forgetting to demand the manta's soul for herself afterward. She was the only presence in his spirit sea who didn't mind him wantonly slaughtering spirit beasts. To Sheiji, race was irrelevant. Everything in the world was food. Only taste mattered. Shu Yan remained silent long enough that Shiji pouted. Then an odd smile curved her lips, and Tianmeng, luxuriating nearby, felt a chill creep up his spine. He jerked his head up and saw Sheiji looking down at him as if she were eyeing a particularly tasty morsel. No, my lady, friends don't eat friends, right? He squeaked. Sheiji rolled her eyes. Get up, we are friends. I don't normally eat friends. I just need a favor. Tianmeng sighed in relief, but grumbled. Could you not make that face? You gave me a psychological trauma just now. Shiji ignored him and began to outline her plan. First you do this, then that, and finally this. You know what I mean? Tianmeng's pupils narrowed. What are you planning? Do it, she replied, all smiles. While Shiji was coercing Tianmeng into some secret experiment, Shu Yan had already dived into the abyss, tracking the Thunder Hell Manta's location. Before he could pinpoint it, the manta struck. The domain had been invaded. A bolt of dark purple lightning erupted from the ocean floor. Shu Yan shifted away and peered downward, finally catching the creature's faint trace. Dark purple arcs of electricity flickered along its hide. Its bulk, more than 30 meters long, stirred sediment and churned the seabed into chaos. Its skin is special, can block and reflect mental force detection, the Ice Empress observed in Shu Yan's spirit sea. It was true. The deep sea's pressure and environment would blunt Shu Yan's strength. Fighting the manta in its own realm was unwise. A silver thread, no thicker than a raindrop, shot from Shu Yan's hand and instantly evaporated the seawater wherever it passed, carving out a vacuum. He then fully activated his spatial force and in an instant displaced all matter in a several hundred-meter radius. The seawater vanished into a pocket of void. Above the surface, Han Ruoro, hovering in her anxiety, suddenly froze as a massive shadow enveloped her. The water's surface became mirror smooth, reflecting her face, and for a moment it was as if another ocean hung in the air. Then a dozen bowl-thick purple lightning bolts detonated through that hanging sea, evaporating it into nothing and revealing an enraged sea beast struggling under sunlight. Shu Yan let the manta thrash inside the spatial cage and unhesitatingly triggered his fifth spirit ability. The Blade of Dimensions cleaved through space. Blood sprayed like rain as the manta's slender tail was severed clean from its body. A piercing wail tore through the air. Hanruoro clapped her hands over her ears, reeling from the shattering pain in her mind. After neutralizing the dangerous tail, Shu Yan's sixth spirit ring, etched with 5 golden patterns, rose. A dark green halo condensed into a perfect circle before them. The manta, once violent within the space prison, suddenly stilled under its light. Its eyes no longer burned with fury, but with utter despair and fear. Shiji felt the activation of her power too and smiled, though she said nothing. As an evil and mental force dual-attribute vicious beast, Shiji's most terrifying assets after her Spider Empress toxin were her insidious mental force spirit abilities. The one Shu Yan had just used was the Death Domain, born of the countless resentments and vengeful spirits Shiji had devoured over 10,000 years. It targeted the mind. To dismantle a being completely, you strike from within. The resentful spirits within the Death Domain were tightly controlled by Shiji. They had died with extreme hatred and unwillingness, now enslaved, barred from reincarnation, their suffering twisted into frightening power. At times, the amassed hatred almost consumed Shiji herself, but her mental force skirted demigod levels and kept her master. When Shu Yan once fought Xuanzi, he had deliberately not used Shiji's mental abilities. Xuanzi's mind, fractured and flawed as it was, would have been torn apart instantly by the Death Domain. In that contest, Shu Yan knew the domain's lethality. Sea spirit beasts usually had stronger minds than terrestrial ones, and even this 100,000-year sea beast king couldn't resist. Under the Death Domain, its soul was shredded and devoured by Shiji's pets. Shu Yan released the spatial cage and let the manta's vast body bob to the surface. Hanroro, still stunned, obeyed Shu Yan's order without further questions. She lashed the carcass with the golden rope to finish it and prepared to absorb its spirit ring. Shu Yan switched to his Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion spirit and slammed his palm down. Within 100 meters, the sea surface froze solid. He stepped onto the ice to stand, then noticed a silver-white dorsal fin cutting the water. Another beast trying to slip away. A streamlined body glided under the blue sea, at least 18 meters long and beautiful in a lethal, linear way. Shu Yan murmured, "Devil Spirit Great White Shark, 80,000 years." He knew the breed. The Devil Spirit, Great White Sharks ranked among the ocean's top predators and were famously aggressive. Though not as individually mighty as a deep-sea magic whale or an evil demon orca of comparable age, a Devil Spirit Great White Shark was far faster, often 2 to 3 times quicker. Sea Spirit Masters joked, "If you meet one in the open ocean, pray its belly's full." Shu Yan moved like lightning. He appeared before the shark and struck it once. The creature saw stars and flipped onto its white belly. "Sk, brutal," Tianmeng commented, impressed. An 80,000-year great white could crush an ordinary titled Douluo like giant force Douluo Chenggang in the sea, but against Shu Yan it was simply unlucky, dared to spy and got roasted. As Shu Yan reached to seal it into his storage spirit tool, he felt something unusual in the shark's head. He pried it open and pulled out a silver-gray cranial spirit bone, an extraordinary top-grade relic from an 80,000-year-old devil spirit great white shark. Shu Yan put it into a jade box to be rationed later. Shiji, who had devoured the shark's soul, also cried out with excitement. "Shu Yan, I've found something you'll like." He halted. "What is it? It'll cost you." Shiji purred, her laughter lilting and dangerous. "This is worth the price." "Exchange?" Shu Yan smiled. He threatened lightly. "If you don't want another stint in the little dark room, speak up. Otherwise, I'll lock you in for 10 or 8 more days." Shiji feigned indignation but wouldn't bend. "I want a trace of your origin aura. Please, Shu Yan, I beg you." For once, she actually sounded beguiling. Shu Yan blinked. "You want my origin aura for what?" "I won't hurt you. Give it to me and I'll tell you. Promise you'll like it." He pretended to resist, but gave in. Shiji's beauty was a rare, evil sort of allure, tall, over 2 meters in stature, with a figure that made her presence impossible to ignore. If the Snow Empress was the cold, distant ideal of beauty, Shiji was the dangerously addictive other side. Shu Yan liked having her around. She brought laughter to his spirit sea. Besides, the Snow Empress was the dominant force in his spirit sea. If Shiji ever tried anything too treacherous, Snow Empress would not allow it. Shiji's smile brightened. I saw an island in the memory of that great white, Sea God Island. Shu Yan frowned. Sea God Island? Can you locate it? 500 li east from here, Shiji replied. But the memory shows a huge cluster of devil spirit great white sharks guarding it. The clan dominator there has at least 200,000 years of cultivation. Shu Yan's expression tightened. Sea God Island, only one such place had existed in history, the legacy island of the old sea god, protected by the 7 sacred pillars. Its original location had been the Northwest Sea area of the old Heaven Do Empire. With the collision and fusion of continents, that ocean had long since become land. Sea God Island should have vanished in history's river. How could it suddenly reappear in the northeastern seas of the dueling empire, halfway across the continent? Whatever the explanation, Shiji's discovery piqued his interest. Hanruoro had just finished fusing her 9th spirit ring, and Shu Yan decided they would investigate Sea God Island next. Chapter 146, Demon King. The so-called Righteous Gang Fight. After absorbing the 100,000-year spirit ring, Hanruoro's 9th spirit ring took to her more smoothly than expected. The process carried little pain or danger. It felt almost natural. Shu Yan kept a quiet watch over her. They were deep in the sea now, beyond ordinary human reach, where powerful sea spirit beasts clustered like sesame seeds. Around the Thunder Hell Manta Ray's territory, a sizable group of tiger whales had been jockeying for position, perhaps sensing the Manta Ray's aura had vanished, and only settled down after Shu Yan eliminated some of them. A day and a night later, Hanruoro finished absorbing the ring. Her spirit power advanced into the true titled Douluo level. Her rank just nudged into rank 92. The spirit bone, produced by the Thunder Hell Manta Ray, was a Nether Abyss Divine Thunder right leg bone. Hanruoro absorbed that too, and her spirit power rose smoothly to rank 93. It was an unexpected boon. According to the original plan, reaching rank 92 with a 100,000-year ring and bone would already have been excellent. She had consumed 2 immortal herbs, increasing her physical quality and the amount and quality of spirit power her body could hold. Shu Yan had warned she could try absorbing vicious beast rings, but the risks were too great, and Hanruoro herself saw no need. That had been the Manta Ray's unfortunate end, and yet it had left a gift. Her golden rope spirit gained lightning power. That extra attribute could aid in control and prove unexpectedly useful in certain situations. The golden rope itself ranked high among tool spirits. After being nourished by 2 great immortal herbs and many high-quality spirit bones, Hanruoro's golden rope had matured into a super spirit, which in turn further raised Hanruoro's potential. Even without Shu Yan's future help, she could become a limit Douluo within 15 years and would still be only 40 or 50, extremely young. With Shu Yan's aid, that time would be shortened drastically. When everything was settled, Shu Yan and Hanruoro resumed their course north. Ahead of them lay the Ice Sea. Shu Yan planned to explore Sea God Island, guarded by the Devil Spirit Great White Shark clan. On the way back, once he had his 7th spirit ring and significantly more power. Unless a limit Douluo appeared, he could escape with Hanruoro or try to kill the opponent. If a limit Douluo did show up, he could summon his Snow Empress, or create a body now and have Elder Yi release the Snow Empress to assist. Even a body formed from pure energy in Heaven and Earth Origin Chi might not match the originals, but the Snow Empress and Ice Empress shared a telepathic bond. With both of them working together, plus Shu Yan and Hanruoro, they could take on a limit Douluo with a strong home advantage. The sea air turned thick with a rotten, fishy stench. The wind howled and giant waves rolled. This place was a true land of death, bereft of life and heavy with a sorrowful, oppressive atmosphere. Shu Yan and Hanruoro streaked through the sky as 2 translucent rainbows. In their spiritual seas, Sheiji and Heavenly Dream strained to sense the auras of nearby sea spirit beasts, searching for the deep-sea demon whale king. Their search turned up nothing. The Ice Empress frowned. Could the deep-sea demon whale king have already left this area? She asked softly. No, Shiji said firmly. The last time I saw her, she was badly wounded from her heavenly tribulation and prior battles. Her mind was fractured. She would have to seclude herself here, an area she's massacred so thoroughly that few strong sea spirit beasts remain, to recover. She paused, the memory still upsetting her. She's made countless enemies. Any sea spirit beast that will try to kill her to restore peace. Unless she's completely lost her mind, she wouldn't act recklessly. Shiji still shivered, remembering their first meeting. She had considered killing and devouring the demon whale at the time, but a single glare from the other had forced her to flee. If she hadn't run, she might not be resting so comfortably in Shu Yan's spiritual sea now. The demon whale's repeated slaughters and the hatred embedded in her blood and bones had eroded her rationality. Shiji herself had once faced a similar danger and had developed methods to suppress the side effects of devouring too many souls. She hid her bloodthirst beneath a placid exterior and learned to mimic human emotions. Blending the essence of both races had become her path, truly the cultivation Tao of evil spirit beasts. The Ice Empress said no more. She continued to lean lazily against the Snow Empress. The Snow Empress stroked her hair gently, like a mother soothing a child. In truth, the Snow Empress had felt maternal toward the Ice Empress ever since the latter first emerged in the extreme Northland. Back then, the Snow Empress had been far superior in identity and strength. Only after the Ice Empress broke through at 200,000 years did their dynamic shift from pet and mistress to something closer to equals. They pushed deeper into the Ice Sea. Shiji and Heavenly Dream widened their search. 2 days passed without a trace. As Heavenly Dream began to despair and asked Shiji to double-check their direction, an almost imperceptible but incredibly potent aura suddenly prickled at the edge of their perception. Everyone tensed. Shiji's body trembled. "It's her," she whispered. "I would recognize that aura even if I died." Shu Yan stared into the ink-dark water. "If it's not necessary, I don't want to fight a 600,000-year-old demon whale king in this environment. That would be irrational." "Same here," the Snow Empress said. "Even at my peak, I wouldn't want to provoke such a monster in the deep sea. I'll go down and try to lure her out. If I can persuade her, it's best not to fight," the Snow Empress decided. Then she added, "First, help the Ice Empress condense a body. Whether we need it later or not, we should be prepared." "Okay," Shu Yan agreed. Creating a body for the Ice Empress was straightforward with the almost limitless energy from the 10,000-year mysterious ice marrow. The Snow Empress and Shu Yan exchanged a look, and she dove into the churning sea as a streak of white light. Moments later, 2 different colors flared from the depths, white for the Snow Empress and deep blue-purple for the Ice Empress. The colors spread, dividing several thousand meters of sea into 2 distinct zones. The sky above dimmed under their influence. Thick dark clouds rolled in and the atmosphere grew heavy. Drops of seawater shot upward, whistling like arrows as they passed the 2, showing how terrifying the presences below truly were. The light beams coalesced and the water split apart. Monstrous waves radiated outward. Shu Yan hauled Han Ruoro back to a safe distance to avoid the spirit power-laden swells. The sea roiled as though boiling. The Snow Empress was the first to fly out, but she arced back as if repelled. Then a colossal shape burst from the water. Sapphire-like skin appeared first, followed by 2 enormous eyes, each over 3 meters across, reflecting sky and sea. The gaze felt like black pits that could drag a person into hell. "Is this the deep-sea demon whale king?" Han Ruoro swallowed. Shu Yan's heart tightened. This was his first close look at a marine vicious beast of this rank. Sea creatures dwarfed land beasts in size. Even the largest land vicious beasts rarely reached 100 meters, but full-grown whale-type beasts were usually no less than 30 meters, and the demon whale before them was at least 150 meters long, like a moving islet, even with part of her still submerged. "Snow woman of the extreme north," a low, hoarse female voice rumbled across the waves. "You should not have provoked me." The demon empress's cold gaze swept the snow empress and the two humans behind her. Hanruoro, the weakest, felt her scalp prickle and instinctively gripped Shu Yan's arm. The snow empress's face went solemn. In the probe beneath the waves, she'd already fallen into disadvantage. This opponent was stronger than she'd feared. Whale Empress, I came to discuss something with you, the Snow Empress said steadily. The Demon Empress's eyes flashed crimson. A massive vortex formed above the sea, a surge of purplish gold light like a tidal maw. Space shuddered, and the heaven and earth origin chi around them surged as if alarmed. Dark Tide, her trademark in true form, rolled out with lethal force. At her cultivation, over 600,000 years, Dark Tide could terrify 100,000-year spirit beasts and could easily kill an ordinary titled Douluo. The Snow Empress's eyes grew icy. She produced an ice-blue longsword of condensed crystals and slashed down. A fan-shaped trail of light cut the air, shifting from deep blue to pure white like driven snow. Where that white sword glow passed, even the air seemed to crack as if frozen solid and sliced apart. The massive vortex stilled when struck by the Emperor's sword, peerless ice. Cold erupted, and the Dark Tide froze, shattering and sinking back into the sea as blocks of ice. Demon Empress, the Snow Empress said coldly, perhaps you've realized I'm no longer a spirit beast body. The Demon Empress did not deny it, but her tone held mockery. Snow Empress, I never thought you would stoop to being driven by humans. What? Are you planning to make this Empress the seventh spirit ring of that human? Haughty laughter echoed from the Demon Empress. You underestimate me, Snow Empress. You're not at your peak. You've only just broken through, your aura unsettled, plus a lowly spirit saint and one human. You want to kill this Empress at sea with such strength? That's laughable. No, a new cold voice cut in. There's also us. Shuer and Shu Yan alone couldn't deal with you, but what if you add us? The Ice Empress and Snow Empress interlocked fingers. Their emperor origins merged and their auras aligned. Together they gave the Demon Empress a chill, an overwhelming presence that made heaven and earth seem pale. Ah, big whale, Shiji called with a teasing tone as she appeared behind Hanruoro, plucking Hanruoro into her arms and pinching her jaw affectionately. After a few millennia we meet again. Did that ugly scar on your face ever heal? You were never handsome compared to me, but if you've got a scar now, you're truly hopeless. Floating beside Sheiji was a small octagonal sprig of pale grass, the awakened octagonal mysterious ice grass. The Demon Empress's mocking expression faded, replaced by a serious dark look. Her gaze swept over the three newcomers. You, Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion, the soul-eating Spider Emperor who escaped my clutches 1,000 years ago, and 100,000-year-old little grass. Why have you chosen to obey a weak human? She growled. Why in heaven's name would you do this? Do you know your actions amount to betraying your own kind? You will suffer heavenly tribulation. Chapter 147, Convincing the Demon King, Opening a New Era, the Evil Lady's Caution. Faced with the Demon Whale Emperor's fury, the Snow Empress and the others remained calm. After a moment, the Snow Empress spoke. Swallowing Sea Whale Emperor, ultimately our goals are the same. There is only one reason we would abandon racial prejudice and cast aside the rewards of hundreds of thousands of years of cultivation to follow a human, to become a true god. 10,000 years ago, your husband fell to the sea god Tang San. You stand where you are now, driven by vengeance and the desire to become a true god. But with your strength alone, you cannot pierce the plane's suppression, nor can you face the sea god who has cultivated in the god realm for ages. If it's not absolutely necessary, we do not wish to fight you. Joining our strengths, we could kill you, but the cost would be enormous. So I ask you to calm yourself and hear us out. When we share a common goal, we need not be enemies. The saying holds, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The Snow Empress's words had a real effect. The terrifying spirit power and killing intent that had erupted within the Demon Whale Emperor slowly ebbed. Shu Yan produced an ice-blue plant and handed it to the Snow Empress. She inclined her head and continued. Swallowing Sea Whale Emperor, I know there are times you cannot entirely control your spirit and your emotions. This plant is called soul-soothing grass. It calms the spirit and purifies the mind. Don't worry, we won't use it treacherously. We're not so despicable. The ice-blue herb drifted toward the Demon Whale Emperor. The blood-red fire in her eyes dulled slightly. Hesitant, she still accepted the plant. Almost at once, a rich purple-black light wrapped the demon whale emperor. Streaks of golden light threaded through the darkness, and a blurry human silhouette emerged and gradually solidified. As the light faded, the demon whale emperor's true face was finally revealed. She was a stunning woman, clad in a purple gold gown that hugged her form, appearing about 30. Her bearing was peerless. Every movement radiated an overwhelming majesty. A single glance from her cold eyes could freeze any spirit master below the titled Douluo realm. The demon whale emperor in human form lifted her gaze to sweep the assembly. Then she clenched her right hand and an ice-blue halo burst out, surrounding her entirely. Under that halo, the cold, evil chi between her brows receded, and a trace of clarity returned to her eyes. Shu Yan and the others breathed easier. Her acceptance of their offering meant her spirit was relatively clear now, unlike those who had met her in fits of madness and had nearly been slaughtered. They had been lucky to catch her at a calm moment. If not, they might already be forced into battle. As the soul-soothing grass took fuller effect, the demon whale emperor exhaled softly. She remained poised above the ocean. The previously churning waters calmed. To everyone's eyes, she seemed to have merged with the sea itself, vast, boundless, unfathomable. Her affinity with the ocean is extraordinarily high, Shiji transmitted. It was wise not to engage directly. If she fully channels the ocean's power into herself, her strength would advance at least one more step. Among Limit Douluo, differences in combat power due to spirit cores and lineage could amount to the difference of a realm. A Limit Douluo like Ditian could at least hold against 2 Limit Douluo without being at a disadvantage. Shu Yan stepped a few paces into the Void Realm and spoke. Swallowing Sea Whale Emperor, our aims align. The reason the Snow Empress and the others trust me is simple. I am likely the last human destined to step into the true god domain after the 7 gods 10,000 years ago. I possess top-tier twin spirits, the true dragon Yazi and the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion. My spirit ring configuration is unprecedented, and I'm only 13, yet I'm already a spirit saint. Imagine what I will be in 10, 20, or 30 years. I can say this honestly, neither plane suppression nor the god realm's shackles will stop my advance. But spirit beasts are different. What your husband Dishan, the Snow Empress, and the Evil Emperor failed to achieve, your chances of succeeding on your own are almost nil. That is fact. By following me, you gain a real chance to contend for the opportunity to become a true god. Consider it carefully. Furthermore, as you've seen, if you follow me, I can swear by my spirit to preserve your entire consciousness. After I become a true god, you could follow me into the divine rank domain as well. The Demon Whale Emperor watched as 2 astonishing spirit ring formations rose beneath Shu Yan. The majestic dragon might of Yazi, in particular, made even a sea spirit feel a natural suppression. The dragon clan had been the pinnacle of continental spirit beasts since antiquity. Shu Yan's dragon bloodline was unprecedentedly pure, approaching that of the ancient true dragons. Yazi, one of the dragon god's 9 sons, carried a part of the dragon god's bloodline. Such spirit development left a deep impression on ordinary beast spirits. The demon whale emperor fell into thought. 10,000 years of slaughter had bruised her heart and spirit, but she had not been completely consumed. She could still judge matters rationally. Shu Yan's proposal, after consideration, seemed feasible. At her level, she understood the road ahead. 10,000 years ago, her husband had been one step from becoming a sea god dragon, but that step had cost him everything. The god realm would never lightly allow spirit beasts to become gods, heaven-favored humans. The future for the spirit beast clans looked grim, and she understood it keenly. Shu Yan seemed to read her thoughts. He paused, then continued. Whale Emperor, soon the Douluo god realm will face a spatio-temporal turbulence. There is a high chance the god realm will be swept away. Once the god realm departs, the Douluo plane will lose the barrier that prevents advancing beyond the limit Douluo shackles into the divine rank domain. But that is our opportunity. After the god realm leaves, I am confident I can initiate planetary evolution across the plane. Once completed, the Douluo plane will become a demi-god realm, able to support the birth of powerhouses above rank 100. However, Without a god realm and the god position, they will be another type of true god. Even rank 100 breakthroughs won't mean immortality. At that point, we can rebuild a god realm together, with me as dominator, re-establish new order and law, rewrite the epoch's prelude, and become undisputed leaders. If we consolidate resources, human and spirit beast development will speed beyond imagination. We will lead both races to a new pinnacle and be the pioneers of a new era. Even if the Douluo God realm returns later, we will have the strength to resist, or even absorb it, so the Douluo plane evolves once more. Then we will be the true dominators, reigning over a changing world, eternal and unshakable. Shu Yan's words, laced with irresistible confidence, drilled into the minds of the Demon Whale Emperor and the Snow Empress. The vision he painted was breathtaking. It felt as if they were already there, witnessing his ambition and believing in his certainty. You are a very special human, brave, arrogant. Even so, I must admit, your words move me, the Demon Emperor said, her voice still hoarse. She fixed Shu Yan with a steady look. Tell me plainly, how confident are you? He chuckled softly. Those who achieve great things are favored by great luck. Those with great luck can achieve greatness. If you want a number, with honesty and responsibility, over 90%. Very well, you have persuaded this emperor. A smile broke across the Demon Emperor's cold face. She now understood why the Snow Empress and the others had deferred to Shu Yan as their last hope. This human possessed an irresistible charm and courage. In only 10,000 years, such a figure had risen among humans. Perhaps precisely the kind of person that had pushed spirit beasts behind, letting humanity ascend. Then I look forward to our pleasant cooperation. Shu Yan smiled in return, relief and ease in his expression. Then the ritual proceeded. Another blood-red spirit ring, marked with 6 golden patterns, formed in his spiritual sea. A left leg bone detached and began to attach itself to Shu Yan's left leg. Cold, terrifying spirit power erupted. Flesh split where the bone fused. Pain surged and Shu Yan's brow tightened, but his life spirit rushed forth, pouring healing energy to suppress the agony. Inside his spiritual sea, Shu Yan glanced faintly at the Demon Emperor. Her face was unreadable, but she regarded his spirit sea with slight curiosity. Calmly, she said, "This is fast. It's only a little pain. Endure it." Shu Yan's mouth twitched. He said nothing more. The Demon Emperor's personality had been altered by 10,000 years of erosion. He understood enough not to push. As the swallowing sea whale emperor's left leg bone melded into him, Shu Yan's spirit power dipped briefly. Then, with the implantation of the 600,000-year-old deep-sea demon whale king's bone, his power surged and stabilized, pressing him to the edge of a breakthrough. When it was finished, Shu Yan rose from the ice-sealed sea. He flexed his left leg, which felt whole, then looked to the side and was slightly surprised. The Snow Empress, Ice Empress, and the octagonal mysterious ice grass had all returned to his spiritual sea, but Sheiji had not. Instead, she remained out in the open, and she seemed unusually at ease with Han Ruruo. The two sat on a rocking chair woven of spider silk, and Sheiji lazily sprawled in Han Ruruo's lap. They were whispering, and occasional peals of laughter, clear and tinkling like wind chimes, rose between them. Shu Yan approached, curiosity in his tone. "What are you two talking about?" Both women turned, smiling. Han Ruruo stuck out her tongue playfully. "Nothing. Girl stuff. Don't ask." "Exactly," Sheiji added. "Ruo and I are discussing things you don't need to hear." "Ruo Jie?" Shu Yan blinked. For a moment he was amused that the ancient Shiji could address Han Ruruo so familiarly, without inhibition. Sheiji snorted softly and burrowed deeper into Han Ruruo's embrace. As she turned, Shu Yan caught a fleeting glint of slyness in her eyes. This girl, getting so close to Han Ruruo, definitely had her own little schemes. Shu Yan decided not to expose her. Shiji's loyalty to him was clear, and he would indulge her harmless plotting. "All right, we should return," Shu Yan said to Han Ruruo. "After this trip, I should have some free time." Han Ruruo's eyes brightened. "Good. After being busy so long, you should spend time with us." Shiji watched them, then pouted playfully, a barely noticeable smile curving her lips again. Chapter 148. What Happened on Sea God Island, the Mermaid Maiden and the Limit Douluo High Priest. After they left the ice sea, a clear blue sky and an endless azured ocean opened up again for Shu Yan and Han Ruruo. The harsh wind had softened into a pleasant sea breeze. The scene was both mysterious and magnificent. Before returning to Shrek Academy, Shu Yan had planned to show Hanruoro Sea God Island. They flew on together, leaving twin streaks across the sky. Small islets first, then more scattered rocks passed beneath them. From his extraordinary eyesight, Shu Yan spotted faint signs of human activity on the beaches of several larger isles. After about 100 miles, a large island silhouette appeared. Near its coast, a few fishing boats threaded toward a harbor, and from their height they could even make out several large sailing ships docked in port. The population here is surprisingly dense, almost that of a medium-sized coastal city in the Douluo Empire, Hanruoro observed, estimating the number of residents by the spread of buildings below. It surprised her. This place lay more than 1,500 kilometers from the nearest mainland coast, a remote land that should have been nearly untouched by humans. Yet such a thriving settlement existed in a place outsiders deemed perilous. It's strange, but there must be a mainland connection, she added. Those streetlights along the main road are the newer models with soul energy storage. They're recent. Shu Yan nodded. Those sailing ships can cross thousands of kilometers, and with the Devil Spirit Great White Shark clan escorting them, links with the mainland aren't difficult. Sea Spirit Masters are more unified than land factions. They revere the sea and often act as allies. I wouldn't be surprised if the major sea families and sects on the continent have ties to this island. Hanruoro agreed. After 10,000 years of development, Sea Spirit Masters had advanced as quickly as their land counterparts. Shu Yan remembered the great sea family in the Star Luo Empire, whose inherited overlord sea whale spirit was a top-tier beast spirit renowned for its strength and defense. Orca and swordfish spirits were among other formidable sea spirits in circulation. "Do you want to land and have a look?" Hanruoro asked suddenly after a short pause. Shu Yan smiled, slid his arm around her waist, and pulled her close. She struggled playfully twice before relaxing. When a woman asks if you want to do something, Shu Yan told himself, it's rarely about your answer. It's a polite demand. He understood her curiosity. She wanted to explore. Shu Yan wasn't opposed. He had already learned through Sheiji and Tian Meng that several powerful auras hid on this island. Some were at least super Douluo level. Whether there were limit Douluo present was uncertain. Sheiji and Tian Meng hadn't probed too deeply. They said the island carried a special, deeply buried mental aura that could likely be sensed by anyone who investigated rashly. Shu Yan wasn't worried. He had left a spatial seed outside the coastal city where they'd been vacationing, an emergency escape. Unless someone could seal the surrounding space completely, even a limit Douluo couldn't trap them if Shu Yan triggered it. After a few whispered words with Hanruoro, Tian Meng and Sheiji shrouded the couple's auras. Disguised by the two powerful mental beasts, Shu Yan and Hanruoro appeared to the islanders as an ordinary young couple. They went unnoticed as they walked toward the docks and into town. Passing a flower shop, a few local girls pressed a bouquet on them, wishing them a long and happy life together, and slyly hoping for children soon. Hanru blushed, but her smile held a mixture of shyness and longing. At her age, and with her cultivation already at the titled Douluo realm, she wanted a child, perhaps twins, a son like Shu Yan and a daughter like herself. She imagined the perfect family and couldn't suppress her smile. Shu Yan sensed her thoughts, but his priorities differed. He wasn't in a hurry to start a family. Hanruoro hadn't reached her full potential. He wanted her to continue cultivating. Then, when the wider situation was more stable, they could think about children. He cared about giving any child a peaceful era to be born into, and that required more caution and planning. He'd planned to discuss it with her later. They followed the island's main road inward. The further they walked, the more obvious the island's uniqueness became. Spirit masters seemed unusually common. Roughly 1 in 10 people they passed had spirit power, a ratio unheard of on the mainland. The crowd guided them to a magnificent altar-like structure. From a distance, they could see a platform and, at its center, a towering white figure. Not so much a pillar as a statue, a white jade maiden kneeling on a saintly dais, hands clasped at her chest, bowed toward the island's center. Though only stone, her devout expression was lifelike, like a true immortal. Legend says Sea God Island has 7 great saint pillars, Shu Yan whispered. Their guardians are the island's foremost powerhouses and the sea god's most loyal followers. This one looks like the Sea Maiden Saint Pillar. A melodious flute suddenly filled the air. The inner sea near the platform began to ripple, though there was no wind. The crowd fell under the music's spell. But Shu Yan and Han Ruoro noticed a real young maiden sitting at the edge of the platform. From the waist down, she was a sinuous fishtail, the scales glittering as she lightly slapped the water. Her upper body was human, wearing only a small black garment that left her waist bare. Her sky-blue eyes and perfect face matched, if not surpassed, Han Ruoro's, and she possessed an oceanic charm altogether different from Han Ruoro's. She's a mermaid, Shiji murmured in Shu Yan's mind. She has strong mental force and is at least super Douluo. She should be the guardian of this saint pillar. When I hunted sea spirit beasts, I met mermaids in the great sea. They're powerful and united. I didn't dare attack. The mermaid watched the two newcomers curiously. Han Ruoro gripped Shu Yan's hand. The girl had clearly noticed them. Don't be nervous, Shu Yan said softly. Her mental force is strong, but not strong enough to detect us through Shiji and Tianmeng's concealment. It wasn't her who discovered us. He guided Han Ruoro through the crowd toward the Sea Maiden platform. The mermaid smiled and raised her flute. The melody deepened. The music entranced the crowd completely, and by the time it faded, Shu Yan and Han Ruoro had vanished from view. Behind the pillar, on a sheet of shimmering water, the mermaid sat with a short black flute, eyeing them with interest. If not restrained, Shu Yan thought she might have reached out to touch them. Are you two land spirit masters? She asked curiously. Isn't it obvious? Shu Yan teased with a smile. It's my first time seeing land spirit masters, Shu Yan continued, playing along. You both look so beautiful. Are all land spirit masters this pretty? The mermaid's naivete came through in her questions, not like the words of a typical super Douluo. Are all sea spirit masters as beautiful as you? She asked in return. Of course not. I'm the #1 beauty on Sea God Island, Shu Yan answered, grinning. The mermaid blinked then after a moment, clapped her hands and asked bluntly, How old are you? Tilting her head, she thought a moment and counted on fingers, a human gesture, before saying, About 30 by human standards? Our mermaids live very long. Even your limit Douluos can't compare. All right, call your elder, Shu Yan said, finding the girl endearingly childish and a little exasperating. The mermaid pouted, then glanced toward the grand palace at the island's center. You're so boring, she said lamentingly. I wanted to chat more. What's the mainland like? I want to see it. If you get the chance, you should go yourself, Han Ruoro answered softly. The mermaid's eyes lit up, and she practically clung to Han Ruoro's arm. Big sister, take me with you. Life here is so dull. I want to visit the human world. This isn't appropriate, is it? Han Ruoro hesitated. Don't worry, big sister. I'll behave. I'll eat a bit more, and I have a secret technique to keep a human form for a long time. My grandmother is planning to leave Sea God Island soon anyway. If she goes, there's no reason for me to stay. Take me with you. I'll be your bodyguard. I'm strong. My grandmother says I'm the strongest genius our clan has had in 10,000 years. I'm nearly guaranteed to become a limit Douluo. Your grandmother? Han Ruoro's curiosity piqued. Something about the mermaid made Han Ruoro feel the girl could read her thoughts. Shu Yan laughed and explained quietly. Mermaids have telepathic abilities. Ruoro, your mental force isn't as strong as hers. That's why she can sense you. As for her grandmother, she's probably the island's high priest, a limit Douluo-level mermaid. Ah! Han Ruoro's eyes widened. She wasn't surprised the granddaughter was a super Douluo. That implied a powerful elder. What puzzled her was how the mermaid had read her thoughts. Shu Yan shrugged. Shiji saw that our group had been discovered and stopped maintaining the mental shield. There's no point hiding anymore. Han Ruoro's mouth twitched. She looked down at the hopeful mermaid clinging to her arm, and for a moment found herself at a loss. Chapter 149, The High Priest's Request, The Sea God Family, and the Broken Letter. The magnificent palace Shu Yan had seen earlier from the Sea Maiden Saint Pillar was called the Sea God Hall, a reconstruction of the original Sea God Hall from 10,000 years ago, suppressed long ago by the divine artifact Sea God Trident. This replica stood at the very center of the present sea god island and formed its highest point. From its heights, one could overlook the whole island and the surrounding sea. The fact that the three of them flew upward without obstruction proved there was no sea god's light present here. As they rose, Shu Yan asked, "Are the people here descendants of the ones who lived on Sea God Island 10,000 years ago?" The young girl nodded and answered, "Yes. When the two continents collided and merged a few thousand years ago, the original Sea God Island was destroyed. But before that, the Grand Priest and the 7 Saint Pillar Guardians led everyone away. With the help of the Sea God family and many Sea Spirit Master families, they reached this place. However, the 7 Saint Pillars here are not mere replicas. They were left by the first Sea God and to some extent remain true divine artifacts." Shu Yan caught the familiar term and asked, "The Sea God family?" The girl nodded, then happily flew circles around Shu Yan and Han Ruoro as she said, "Yes, the Sea God family is very powerful. They're even stronger than the top Spirit Master sects on your continent because the bloodline of the first Sea God runs through them. They appeared when Spirit Masters first emerged. Over the ages, they quietly guarded the sea and the legacy of the Sea God. When Sea God Island was rebuilt, the core of the Sea God family moved here. Most of the island's strongest people come from that family." Shu Yan nodded, not particularly surprised. When Han Roro looked at him curiously, he just smiled, sent her a short message, and let her fall into step with the girl. The Sea God Hall rose tall and majestic, formed of a deep blue ore pulled from the abyssal floor. In the sun, it scattered light like it had a divine glow of its own. The girl led them inside. A few steps in, a tall, dignified statue came into view, not of the current sea god Tang San, but of the first sea god, Poseidon. Before the statue stood a woman draped in an exquisite azure gown. Her long, wavy hair was water blue, flowing like an endless ocean. At a glance, it inspired an unexplainable awe. "Grandma, I brought them," the girl said. Her fishtail had become smooth human legs. She stepped barefoot across the crystalline floor and approached the woman. The woman slowly raised her eyes. A faint blue light flashed through them. She ruffled the girl's hair gently, then turned to face Shu Yan and Han Ruro. A gentle smile softened her features. "Welcome, friends from afar. My name is Hypocrisy, the current Grand Priest of Sea God Island and the highest authority here." Both Shu Yan and Han Ruro felt something exceptional about her. She carried an aura beyond graceful and noble, a presence that impressed itself on their minds. A single word rose unbidden in both their heads: unparalleled elegance. "Greetings, Senior," they said, bowing slightly in unison. "No need for formality." Hypocrisy waved it off, every movement radiating a comforting kindness. "It's been thousands of years since a land spirit master set foot on Sea God Island. I didn't expect an exception today." "How did you find this place?" "Don't tell me it was by accident. Sea God Island is protected by the Devil's Spirit, Great White Shark King's Group, and permanent storm clusters hundreds of miles out. No ordinary person can reach it by chance." Shu Yan smiled faintly. "We were hunting sea spirit beasts for spirit rings. From them we learned of this place and decided to investigate." "Oh?" Hypocrisy smiled softly. "That's believable. Even among sea spirit masters, aside from my granddaughter, I've never seen a spirit saint in her teens or a titled Douluo around 30. The aura of this young one hasn't completely settled yet. She must have just absorbed her 9th spirit ring. Those trailing flashes of lightning, her 9th ring should be from a thunder hell manta ray. It's astonishing that you two alone could kill one. As for you, young man, your aura seems familiar." Her voice trailed off. Hypocrisy looked at Shu Yan closely, a shadow of surprise and uncertainty on her face, then whispered, "You wouldn't have killed that deep-sea demon whale king that ravaged the North Sea, would you?" Shu Yan only smiled and stayed silent. A hush settled in the Sea God Hall. Hypocrisy scrutinized him, brow furrowing. After a long moment, her expression softened and relief returned. "That whale was a scourge in the sea. Your slaying of it is a deed that repays the seas. I must thank you on behalf of all marine races." She bowed slightly to Shu Yan. The girl beside her watched in a daze, then abruptly followed suit with an awkward bow. Shu Yan smiled. "My aim was only to get my 7th spirit ring. Senior, you needn't be so formal." Hypocrisy shook her head. No, the meaning of events depends on perspective. Your killing of that deep-sea demon whale king is not just an ordinary feat. Moreover, I detect marks of more than one divinity on you. You are a chosen of the divinities. Her gaze turned bright, fervent, so intense that for an instant Shu Yan felt as if she might leap toward him. Han Ruoro and the young girl gaped at him as if stunned. A flicker of surprise crossed Shu Yan's face before he answered lightly. For a genius like me, being chosen by divinities is only a matter of time. I'm more curious why you sought us out, senior. Hai Mengchen paused, then caught his meaning. I did not summon you merely to speak empty flattery. It's like this. I have decided to step down as Grand Priest and return to my family. Sun Shun, she looked fondly at the girl, will not stay on Sea God Island either. But as you can see, she looked at Sun Shun's vacant, childlike expression and rubbed her forehead. This girl isn't immature in strength anymore, but mentally, she's simple and naive. The usual methods to toughen her are too cruel, they might shatter her fragile mind. So I plan to let her travel and learn from the human world. Maybe experience there will help her mature and understand human customs and behavior. Shu Yan looked at Sun Sun, who had the guileless demeanor of a naive student, and said wryly, Senior, if you want her to mature, surely there are better ways than sending her to the human world. Hai Mengchen smiled. I have many ways to force maturity, but I cannot bear them. Those methods would traumatize her. Meeting you here, I think it's fate, and I will not let you help for nothing. She turned her gaze to Han Ruoro. If I'm not mistaken, this girl lacks a head spirit bone. Coincidentally, I have a 100,000-year head spirit bone from a sea spirit beast. If you're willing to take Sun Sun, this will be her reward. She produced a dark blue head spirit bone. It was peculiar. The bone looked as if it were made of seawater. Even a light touch sent ripples across it. The air around it seemed to fluctuate with each wave. A pleasure doing business with you, Hai Mengchen said. Surprise flashed across Shu Yan's face, but he agreed decisively without hesitation. Hai Mengchen nodded, pleased, and continued. Shun Shun is hardy and capable. Aside from eating too much, being a little simple-minded, and overly naive, she's all virtues. Treat her like a donkey, don't hold back. This will temper her. You needn't worry about her maintaining human form. She can stay in human legs for long periods. We merfolk are half human, half spirit beast. Our spirit beast aura isn't strong. I will help suppress it further. Even your limit Douluo won't easily detect her true identity. Her plans sounded as though they had been prepared for a long time. Shu Yan chuckled. Senior, do you truly trust us that much? Hai Mengchen smiled faintly. Perhaps. Besides, following a future divinity will benefit Shun Shun. She's already a super Douluo in cultivation. Killing her gains nothing. Young man, I have high hopes for you. I think letting Shun Shun follow you is the right decision. It's like how the devil spirit Great White Shark King once chose to follow Sea God to rule the oceans. To be frank, my aim is simple. I hope the two of you will grow close over time, that Shun Shun will become your companion. If you become a divinity and ascend to the God realm, your lover will surely accompany you and become a divinity too. I am not without selfish motives. Hai Mengchen glanced at the sea god statue behind her and spoke in a lower voice. Every limit Douluo stands at the peak of this world. They can vaguely touch another world, but that world is too ethereal to grasp. In the past, our sea god protected the ocean and kept it peaceful for many years. After the change in belief 10,000 years ago, the ocean changed. She grew agitated. No, not just the ocean. The whole world. It has grown chaotic. Through the ocean, I heard the world's wailing, as if a sharp blade had been subtly driven into the world and wrapped in a potent poison. That poison will seep into the marrow and become incurable. I knelt daily before the sea god's statue, praying, but my heart never regained the peace of before. Her voice echoed in the hall and slowly faded. A moment later, Shiji's low voice slipped into Shu Yan's mental force. Shu Yan, I don't know if I should say this, but this woman is very strong in the mental domain. Her mental force is at least demigod level, in fact, almost divine. By Ilakes' assessment, her mental origin holds half the strength of a divinity. It seems she reached that height with the help of some external force, but it's still terrifying. Ilakes, who had been silent, then added, Little Spider is right. She has a mental type divine artifact lodged in her mental force. She must have integrated it when her mental force broke through to demigod. Because of that, her mental force surged to a level infinitely close to divinity. For an instant, it may have touched true divine rank before plane laws suppressed it. The voices she hears are likely from her plane's consciousness. Elakes, Shu Yan murmured. A vague understanding formed in his mind. After a moment, he accepted Hypocrisy request. I'll take Shun and try to help her mature. I do have another doubt, he said. Judging by your state and cultivation, you should still have a century or more of life. You're retiring now. There must be a deeper reason. Hypocrisy turned to him, her gaze deep. I'll tell you the truth. In recent years, the sea god family has increasingly ostracized our merfolk. They inherited the divine artifact granted by the second sea god. Several millennia ago, when the two continents nearly collided, they were ready to intervene, but the second sea god issued a divine oracle to stop them. Later, when the sea god family migrated here, it seemed to be his will as well. Perhaps, as I've said, our merfolk are not purely human. No matter how much we love peace, we can never fully integrate into the human world. Some humans will never accept our existence. She sighed. At the same time, the devil spirit great white shark race, which guards Sea God Island, favors the sea god family. After all, the bloodline of the first sea god flows in them, and the second sea god valued them. This makes the devil spirit great white shark king especially respectful. Another difference is the power of faith. Their power of faith is blind. They have forgotten the original purpose of belief. Our merfolk worship the first sea god because he pacified the oceans and led all marine races into a golden age of prosperity, the foundation for future prosperity. Sea god was the common monarch of all marine life, and that cannot be denied. Even after sea god entered the god realm, the oceans remained peaceful for a time. But after the sea god position changed, things deteriorated. The second sea god simply enjoys the power of faith of the marine races without the dedication or action expected of a god. He even ignored the deep-sea demon whale king for a time. I asked him to intervene but received vague answers. He subtly hinted I should not interfere. It seems to him the ocean is merely a resource to be exploited for faith. A sea god like that is unworthy of our worship. But the sea god family and the devil spirit great white shark race have not noticed. They behave as if enchanted, believing him without question, not considering the harm their inaction will cause. I am confused and exhausted, yet painfully aware. Sea God Island is no longer a holy land worth guarding. The ocean is my home. I want to return and protect my clan. There was fatigue in her voice, a long-suffering weariness. Once, being able to see the problem, but powerless to stop it, had driven her to the brink of mental collapse. Now, she had decided. If the path she foresaw came to pass, she would leave the eye of the storm, take her people away from the center, and try to salvage a future for them. Shu Yan listened without interrupting. The Sea God Hall held a hush as waves of ancient grievances and present resolutions mingled, and beyond the statue of Poseidon, the sea itself seemed to listen. Chapter 150. Teacher and students play in Wei. Yan Xiaojie promotes his disciple. After their trip to the sea ended, Shu Yan and Han Ruoruo were joined by Hai Shunshan, who looked about college-aged. She clearly possessed the cultivation level of a super Douluo, and though she wasn't very young, her mannerisms were like those of an innocent teenager, unfamiliar with the ways of the world. She was unusual. Hai Mengchen would have to stay on Sea God Island for a while. As a limit Douluo, her primary strength lay in mental force, and that power was terrifyingly strong. She also had a mental-type divine artifact, so she could definitely protect herself in an emergency. Given her special standing, even the many experts of the Sea God family didn't dare to act rashly toward her. After Hai Shunshan left Sea God Island, a female titled Douluo from the Sea God family took her place quickly. The 7 Saint Pillar Guardians had historically been 6 men and 1 woman, an unwritten rule. The Sea Maiden Saint Pillar's guardian had always been female. They reached land the next day, arriving at the seaside city where Han Ruoruo and Shu Yan had vacationed before. It resembled parts of Sea God Island, but local customs were very different. Hai Shunshan behaved like a child, seeing everything for the first time, touching and staring at everything. Shu Yan and Han Ruoro followed behind, trying to clean up her messes. A few gold coins were thrown down, and the merchant, who had been about to mutter something rude, immediately switched to a flattering smile, practically praising Hai Shunshun's curiosity. In this era, gold coins still carried great purchasing power. Small vendors rarely earned that much in a year. Shu Yan planned to let the two of them rest in the city for a day and to help Hai Shunshun learn the rules of the human world. With her appearance and behavior, people who didn't understand might assume something was wrong with her. A day passed quickly. They returned to Shrek Academy, and Shu Yan would be staying put for a while. He had been dragged into the Shrek Seven Devils situation for more than a day now, and as for the Spirit Master competition, he couldn't have cared less. He'd go through the motions, consider it a school-funded vacation. Hanruoro planned to apply to the academy to accompany the team to Starluo City as a teacher. Wu Ming also had plans, but she didn't intend to go as a teacher. As an inner courtyard student, she had more freedom. She could find a reason to leave and do what she wanted. With Wu Ming's cultivation, she could have already taken the inner court's graduation assessment, though she wasn't ready yet. The idea of teacher-student play sounded problematic if it ever leaked, but if Shu Yan wanted it, Wu Ming felt she could be accommodating. Shu Yan was the mainland's #1 genius. What was wrong with him enjoying some special youthful indulgences? To the public, it would likely be painted as romantic exploits of a young prodigy. Wu Ming was confident that anything between her and Shu Yan would be different from ordinary affairs. That was her faith in both of them. Ling Luochen remained a main member of the Shrek Seven Devils team for the competition. Now an ultimate spirit master at the Spirit Emperor level, she was approaching Ma Xiaotao in combat strength. No matter how strong Ma Xiaotao's evil fire was, it wasn't ultimate fire, and without ultimate fire, it could be suppressed by ultimate ice. In Shrek City, the three checked into a large hotel owned by the Han family. Inside, Shu Yan ran into an old acquaintance, Gu Yun. Gu Yun's mature charm had grown since they'd last met, and the ample curves at her front immediately drew Hai Shunshun's astonished gaze. Before Gu Yun could react, Hai Shunshun had already moved in front of her and reached out to feel them. Gu Yun's face flushed crimson. She stumbled back 2 steps, stunned that such an apparently naive girl would do this in the hotel lobby, even though the area had been cleared when Shu Yan and company arrived. She felt horribly embarrassed. Shu Yan watched with a hint of amusement. Han Ruoro quickly stepped forward and pulled Hai Shunshun back. Aunt Gu, this is Hai Shunshun. We met her at sea. She's a super Douluo, but her personality, well, as you can see, please take care of her while she's here. Gu Yun's embarrassment gave way to shock. Hai Shunshun looked no more than a dozen years old, yet she was already a super Douluo, and her behavior was definitely unusual. Greetings, Majesty, Gu Yun said after collecting herself. I'm Gu Yun, the manager of this hotel. I'll take care of your accommodation and meals. If you need anything, please come to me. Hai Shunshun glanced at Han Ruoro, then stepped forward and helped Gu Yun up, a little sheepish. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Your place is just so big, I couldn't help myself. Gu Yun's cheeks flushed again. She tucked hair behind her ear. It's fine, we're all women, but please be more careful. That's impolite. All right, I'll be careful, Hai Shunshun promised, sneaking one last look before nodding. Han Ruoro spoke quietly with Gu Yun and took Hai Shunshun aside to set some ground rules. Shrek City was full of hidden powers. Hai Shunshun's half-human, half-spirit beast nature wasn't obvious to ordinary people, but Han Ruoro wanted to be cautious and prevent any accidents. Gu Yun, still slightly red-faced, went over to Shu Yan. Young lord, you look taller after not seeing you for some time. Shu Yan smiled. Aunt Gu, you're even more radiant. I don't know who's going to benefit from all that radiance. Gu Yun slipped her hand into Shu Yan's arm and led him to her private lounge. I'm almost 50, she said with a playful smile. I don't plan to find anyone in this life, but if you don't mind, I can help take care of your children someday. Gu Yun had cared for Shu Yan since infancy. She'd been a steady presence during his childhood. Shu Yan agreed readily. He rested on the soft sofa and Gu Yun, an experienced masseuse, knelt and began to massage him. Shu Yan felt that Gu Yun's professional touch beat anything Han Ruoro or the others could offer. Back at the inner courtyard, Shu Yan had a meeting with the old dean Yan Xiaojie. Since Shu Yan's slight setback in the high-altitude PK with Xuanzi, Yan Xiaojie's attitude toward him had shifted. The old man watched him now with an intensity that made Shu Yan uneasy. Sitting in the dean's office, Shu Yan tried to break the silence. "Dean Yan, if you have something to say, just say it. The staring is awkward." Yan Xiaojie cleared his throat, embarrassed. Yan, I hear you've broken through to Spirit Saint?" "Yes, Dean Yan. And your 7th spirit ring is settled?" "Yes." "A 100,000-year ring?" "Yes." "And what do you think of Ma Xiao Tao?" Shu Yan gave a reflexive yes and then frowned. "Dean Yan, what do you mean? I have a girlfriend. I advise you to calm down." Yan Xiaojie blushed but tried to regain control. "For heaven's sake, never mind that. Tell me, have Han Roro and Wu Ming broken through?" Shu Yan nodded. It wasn't something to hide. Yan Xiaojie was a super Douluo and could tell at a glance. Yan Xiaojie's eyes brightened. "If I'm not mistaken, Han Roro's 9th ring and Wu Ming's 8th ring are both 100,000-year rings, right? And it's likely Wu Ming and Ling Luochen's spirits have evolved to ultimate attributes, correct?" Shu Yan confirmed it. The revelation sent Yan Xiaojie's hands clenching. In the past 10,000 years, only 3 ultimate attributes had appeared, and now 2 had surfaced quietly in Shu Yan's team. Yan Xiaojie fully understood the significance. Ultimate attribute spirits are super spirits. Even if their owners didn't become Limit Douluo, they could at least reach Xuanzi's level. What astonished the dean further was that these ultimate attribute spirit masters were both acquired, which meant Shu Yan, as their leader, must have access to methods or treasures that could elevate ordinary spirit masters to ultimate status. Yan Xiaojie tried to control himself, then asked a question he'd been avoiding. "What's your relationship with those 3 female students?" Shu Yan smiled and replied lightly, "It's simple. They're all my girlfriends. Otherwise, how would I have so much time to help them improve?" Yan Xiaojie's mouth twitched. He felt like covering his face and sighing, but he wasn't surprised. The dean had always asked questions that presumed answers. "You brat, I can't control you young people. But I have to say, you really have a way with people. To win over the 3 most outstanding female students in the inner courtyard at once, you remind me of myself when I was young." Cough, cough. Shu Yan listened without comment. Yan Xiaojie, partly bemused and partly envious, thought about the academy's rules. Shrek didn't formally allow this kind of polygamy, but Shu Yan was exceptional. Those female students were pillars of the inner courtyard. Expelling them wasn't an option. At most, Yan Xiaojie could feign a reprimand, and then an idea hit him. Adding Ma Xiaotao into the mix might not be a bad thing. She was powerful, would benefit from Shu Yan's support, and as her mentor, he knew she already felt differently about Shu Yan. It could be a win-win. His face lit up. "Yan, you already have 3 girlfriends, so one more wouldn't matter. My Xiaotao is a perfect match for you. She's deeply fond of you and told me she won't marry anyone else. Why don't you give her a chance?" At that instant, a crisp sound came from outside the office as the door opened. Ma Xiaotao's flushed face appeared in the doorway, red with shame or indignation. Shu Yan smiled with interest and stood. "Dean Yan, I have something to do, so I'll go. By the way, senior sister Xiaotao probably only heard the last sentence. Please explain everything to her carefully. I'm sure she'll understand." Yan Xiaojie looked at Ma Xiaotao, opened and closed his mouth, and finally managed. "Xiaotao, listen to the teacher's explanation." Chapter 151, Heart Knots and Leisurely Days. Jiang Nanin's realization, the transformation of a simp. After teleporting out of Yan Xiaojie's office, Shu Yan's mood remained unruffled. He understood Yan Xiaojie well enough. His cultivation aptitude had once been far higher than Shu Hong's, and his light phoenix beast spirit was top tier, comparable in some respects to a light holy dragon. If Yan Xiaojie had been more magnanimous in temperament, he wouldn't still be stuck at rank 95. In truth, Yan Xiaojie had limit Douluo potential, but his mindset and personality kept him from it. Without a change in those, he would probably peak at Xuanzi or Elder Song's level in his lifetime. Limit Douluo was out of the question. As for Yan Xiaojie's earlier favoring of Ma Xiaotao, Shu Yan didn't approve. He felt indifferent toward Ma Xiaotao. She was just a classmate he greeted from time to time. Any suggestion of special feelings was nonsense. Ma Xiaotao was beautiful and alluring, but Shu Yan wasn't the kind to be overcome by a pretty face. Besides, he already had someone at home who was, in his private view, a living volcano. After her transformation, Wu Ming could rival or even surpass Ma Xiaotao in nearly every way. Ma Xiaotao was only 19, Wu Ming was almost 30. That decade-plus age difference created a real gap in temperament. Between the two, Shu Yan preferred Wu Ming. He did know Ma Xiaotao felt something for him. His sudden, domineering arrival in her world had shaken the always prideful Ma Xiaotao, and unusual feelings had sprung from that. Youthful girls are easily disturbed by such things, and Ma Xiaotao was no exception, both lucky and unlucky in her own way. Shu Yan believed in a simple truth: don't meet someone too stunning in your youth. Later encounters are always measured against that memory, and few can outshine it. A heart knot left from youth is the hardest mental burden to untie. He accepted that Ma Xiaotao's feelings might develop along that path and stopped worrying about it. The sunshine was bright. He pushed the thought away. He went home, woke Wu Ming who'd overslept, and the two of them grabbed fishing gear and headed straight to Sea God Lake to fish and have their catch for dinner. Han Ruoruo had a clothes shopping appointment with Hua Yao in Shrek City that morning. Ling Luochen was probably still in the simulation training ground and would most likely train with Dai Yueheng in the afternoon. As for formal training, Shu Yan had little interest. His strength made Shrek Academy's championship a foregone conclusion with him in the lineup. To avoid sweeping everything too easily and to keep others from becoming mere foils, Xuanzi had already arranged things. Aside from a few crucial matches, Shu Yan didn't need to participate. Once in Star Luo City, he only had to appear for a handful of contests. The rest of his time was his own. While they fished, Wu Ming asked why Yan Xiaojie had called Shu Yan. He told her everything honestly. She went quiet, thoughtful. Shu Yan's demeanor had mellowed recently. Perhaps his Ren and Du meridians had been cleared, and he'd become more rational instead of blindly charging forward. Then, are you interested in Ma Xiaotao? Wu Ming asked after a moment. Shu Yan rolled his eyes. If I were interested, you'd be sitting next to her tonight, pouting. Wu Ming blushed until her ears matched the setting sun. Talking about such things out in the open embarrassed her, even if nobody else could hear. Just then, her fishing rod bowed hard. Her shyness vanished as she hauled a silver-scaled fish of at least 3 catties onto the grass. Yay! Tonight I'll make you braised fish. Taste my cooking skills, she crowed, scooping the fish up and smiling at Shu Yan, water droplets flecking her face. Shu Yan grinned. Seeing her happy made him happy too. And for once he ignored that Wu family rule number 3 forbade Wu Ming and the family dogs from entering the kitchen without permission. The next few days were lazy and pleasant. Shu Yan spent time with the 3 girls, walked the restless Haishunshan around Shrek City, and let Shiji wander out to tease the human world. Living among humans was a different experience from observing them from afar. Shiji loved to needle Shu Yan, and he, now used to her antics, would discipline her in return. Shiji took it in stride. After all, as an evil spirit beast, she was mischievous and unruly by nature. Snow Empress and Ice Empress, subtly affected by Shiji, began to venture out. The 2 sisters had lived in frozen solitude for ages. They were curious about human crowds. Han Ruoruo and Wu Ming sometimes took them shopping, buying clothes, getting manicures and makeovers, little things Shu Yan found tedious. The Demon Empress, by contrast, scoffed at such frivolities. She nourished her soul and slept mostly, speaking rarely in the spiritual sea. The last time she'd spoken was when she entrusted Shu Yan with finding her daughter in a distant sea. Since then, she had watched in silence. Tianmeng had condensed a small body for itself, still its ice silkworm form, small and cute, and loved to nap on Shu Yan's shoulder or playfully bicker with Han Ruoruo. At Shrek Academy, they ran into familiar faces. Bei Bei and Tang Ya were inseparable. With Muen's approval, they had been training at Sea God Pavilion. Bai Bai had advanced to Spirit Ancestor, while Tang Ya had stabilized her Blue-Silver King spirit. With nourishment from the golden tree's abundant light and life chi, her spirit was stronger than most Blue-Silver Kings, with even a faint light attribute. Shu Yan felt relieved, seeing them develop well. Tang Ya invited them to visit the Tang sect's base on the outskirts of Shrek City. The resurrected Tang sect was remote but improving. Shu Yan offered a few tips and otherwise left it to grow. He also saw Huo Yuhao, taller and more vigorous than before. Perhaps Zhuang Lao had warmed and cleared his meridians, or he'd taken pills to raise aptitude. His hidden talent had begun to show. Even if his foundation was weak, his spirit strength and perseverance made him a leader among his peers. He wasn't an ordinary lucky child anymore, but his luck still set him apart. Shiji could confirm that Huo Yuhao had found both career and love. Wang Donger was always by his side, presenting more like a male, giving their pairing a strong bromance vibe that drew attention. Shu Yan's conversations with Wang Donger left a neutral impression. Not bad, not outstanding. He dropped a hint or two and let it be. On Douluo Continent, love wields power as formidable as creation itself. When truth comes, people usually make the right choice. Around this time, Shu Yan also witnessed an entertaining, quietly dramatic scene. Outer courtyard goddess Jiang Nanan began pestering her former simp, Shu Sanqi. It had been common knowledge that Shu Sanqi used to be Jiang Nanan's simp. After Shu Yan enlightened him, Shu Sanqi gradually let go of his infatuation with Jiang Nanan and instead bugged Bei Bei, throwing himself into cultivation or other tasks from morning till night. A simp's awakening is always noteworthy, and Shu Sanqi's transformation caught everyone's attention. Even the usually aloof Jiang Nanan was surprised. At first, she was relieved and even happy, but as Shu Sanqi grew more distant, an undercurrent of grievance and disparity rose in her. She was rational enough to know she shouldn't feel that way, yet she couldn't control it. The emotions interfered with her cultivation, so she took leave and went home to visit her mother. It was there that she learned something that stunned her. Her mother told her that during the years Jiang Nanan had been too ashamed to show her face, it had been Shu Sanqi who quietly cared for her mother. He came and went between places, always setting aside time each year to be with her mother. In those early days, when his spirit had only just completed a second awakening, he'd risked harming his origin chi to repeatedly massage her mother's meridians and refine medicinal pills for her until he collapsed from exhaustion. There were too many such acts of care to dismiss. Had those words not come from her own mother, Jiang Nanan might have thought it a ploy. Guilt, shock, confusion, regret, a tangle of emotions left her unwilling to face reality. After saying goodbye, she returned to Shrek Academy determined. She would apologize and thank Shu Sanqi for everything. But as fate would have it, the first time she mustered the courage to approach him, she saw him walking to the cafeteria, laughing with a senior classmate. Hope flared inside her. She wanted to step forward, to apologize and set things right, but she froze. Shu Sanqi glanced over, then turned his gaze away. The two walked on and soon disappeared among the flow of outer courtyard students. Jiang Nanan couldn't remember how she got back to her dorm. Something felt hollow, a missing piece in her chest. The girl with Shu Sanqi was from a major sect in the Tianhun Empire, a peer almost his equal in talent and background, an objectively perfect match compared to a girl without such backing. Lying on her bed, Jiang Nanan replayed every memory with Shu Sanqi. They weren't all beautiful, but they brought a clarity she hadn't had before. At dawn, stirred awake by her roommate, she saw through herself at last. The feelings she'd buried in shadow were real. Freed from misunderstanding, they rose like a fish returned to river and sea, coming back into the light. That was the scene Shu Yan had seen. Jiang Nanan's dawning understanding, the unraveling of a heart knot, and Shu Sanqi, once a notorious simp, quietly reformed into someone whose care and loyalty were finally being seen, even if the timing left everything bittersweet. Chapter 152, The Holy Angel and the Holy Tree. Yu Bingyan breaks through. To be honest, Shu Yan hadn't expected Jiang Nanan to do something like that. He had read countless novels with similar plots in his previous life, but seeing it happen for real made him realize how intoxicating it could be. The old saying was right, when you're well-fed and comfortable, desires awaken. Shu Yan felt thoroughly content in every way. If his goals hadn't still been ahead of him, he would have been tempted to live in that comfortable, indulgent state forever. The reason was simple, it was just too pleasant. Time passed quickly. One day, Shu Yan was dining at a long-standing high-end restaurant in Shrek City with the curious Hai Shun and Shi Ji when Gu Yun quietly appeared and stood beside them. Shu Yan's instincts told him something had happened at once. But Gu Yun showed no panic, only a faint, almost imperceptible joy, so Shu Yan relaxed. He had guessed correctly. It was good news. When Gu Yun spoke, Shu Yan couldn't help smiling. "All right, Aunt Gu, go tell my mother. I'll head to Lingdo City tomorrow. Once I get there, we can help her hunt a spirit beast for her 9th spirit ring." Rumors had already reached Lingdo City. Yu Bingyan had successfully condensed her first spirit core and reached the titled Douluo realm. Her ordinary seraphim spirit had evolved into a divine seraphim, an ultimate divine superspirit, and she urgently needed a suitable spirit beast to become her 9th spirit ring. Gu Yun nodded and glanced at Hai Shun and Xie Ji behind Shu Yan. She couldn't help admiring how attractive the spirit beast's human forms were, especially Xie Ji and the Snow Empress. In terms of presence, they could rival each other. Compared to the frosty, otherworldly Snow Empress, Gu Yun found herself more intrigued by Xie Ji. Though Gu Yun was still a virgin, she wasn't inexperienced. She knew that for a woman to catch a man's attention, appearance and temperament both mattered. They complemented each other like a spirit fusion skill. Early the next morning, Shu Yan used spatial transit to return to Lingdo City. Yu Bingyan's divine seraphim was an undisputed ultimate divine spirit, its quality even slightly superior to Wu Ming's golden crow and Ling Luoqin's ultimate ice. Among attributes of the same rank, things like divine, space, and death were some of the most powerful, especially at the ultimate level. But a 100,000-year spirit beast with the divine attribute was extremely rare on the continent. Through years of searching, the Shu family had only found a 70,000-year divine spirit phoenix in the Star Do Great Forest, an inferior pure-blood phoenix that had mutated to gain the divine attribute. If it reached 100,000 years, it would become a beast king-level existence. That had been Yu Bingyan's long-standing choice for her 9th spirit ring, but Shu Yan already had a better plan. After a brief explanation to Yu Bingyan, Shu Yan refused company from Shu Junyu and the others. Mother and son headed straight south, bound for the southern dense forest in the southern part of the Star Luo Empire. Although the world was developing rapidly in this era, environmental destruction wasn't yet severe. Many empires still had sizable spirit beast habitats. The southern dense forest was the largest in the Star Luo Empire. On the map, it covered barely a third of the Star Do Great Forest, but its location was unique, 3 sides surrounded by sea, with only its north connected to the mainland. The forest extended deep into the ocean, giving it a peculiar, rain-soaked, sweltering climate and frequent natural disasters like hurricanes and tsunamis. Spirit beast density was impressive, less than the Star Do Great Forest, but far above most other gathering grounds. Shu Yan had learned from the Demon Empress that during her drifting in the sea, she had sensed a powerful divine aura in the forest's southernmost region, undoubtedly a 100,000-year divine spirit beast. That revelation saved Shu Yan a lot of searching. Their angel martial souls favored aerial movement. The seraphim lineage reigned supreme in sky combat. Though the divine seraphim was a weakened form of the true seraphim, it still ranked among the top sky domain powers. Flying into the southern dense forest, the two quickly located their target, a 100,000-year sacred radiance divine tree deep in the forest. The tree appeared as if carved from golden jade, radiating a soft golden light, exquisitely dazzling, a bright pearl rooted in the earth. Shu Yan and Yu Bingyan exchanged a look and launched a pincer attack. The tree fought back fiercely, but it was no match for the two. Yu Bingyan severed its roots with a single sword strike, utterly severing its life force. A blood-red spirit ring rose into the air, faint golden runes swirling within. The rich divine aura made Yu Bingyan's fists clench. She barely said a word to Shu Yan, and immediately began absorbing her 9th spirit ring. The sacred radiance divine tree also yielded a 100,000-year divine him head spirit bone in addition to the spirit ring. After absorbing both, Yu Bingyan's spirit power skyrocketed, soaring toward the 94th rank. There was no other explanation. The sacred radiance divine tree was supremely compatible with her. If it had been any other fire or light attribute 100,000-year spirit beast, the best she could have hoped for was the 93rd rank. The difference was terrifying. This was exactly why most spirit masters hunted so desperately for a compatible spirit ring. The gap between suitable and unsuitable could be enormous. With matters settled, Yu Bingyan called Shu Yan to return. She planned to enter seclusion for a few months to consolidate, aiming to emerge at the 94th rank and reach the 95th within 2 years, truly becoming a super duo. The immortal herb plus the 9th spirit ring and spirit bone, perfectly attuned to her divine attribute, had unlocked her potential. Yu Bingyan could now cultivate unhindered up to the 98th rank. At the same time, another thought stirred in her. Could she, in her lifetime, evolve into a true seraphim? Could the divine rank seraphim, whose legacy had been lost 10,000 years ago, reappear? The idea came partly from family expectation and obsession, and partly from sensing Shu Yan's intentions. The holy angel spirit had already given her the confidence to face a super duo as a titled Douluo. If she could evolve into a seraphim at the super Douluo realm, she would possess peak power comparable to a limit Douluo and be able to support her son even more. Shu Yan could feel her thinking. How could he not want to help his mother achieve that dream? But it would take time. Until he found relics tied to the seraphim, there was nothing immediate he could do. When they arrived in Shrek City, Shu Yan realized something was off. Yu Bingyan had no intention of leaving. She had already made arrangements. Not only did she want the 9th spirit ring, she also wanted to see her 2 other daughters-in-law. Surprised, she followed Shu Yan to Sea God Island and pushed open the door. Inside, Han Roro sat on the sofa, leaning over and lecturing 2 women slumped on the floor. Wu Ming and Ling Luochen were restrained by a golden rope, electric filaments writhing along it. At the doorway, Han Roro's peripheral vision caught Shu Yan, and she didn't think much of it. Yan, step aside for a moment. I need to teach these disobedient puppies and kittens a lesson. They've been getting more unruly lately, actually thinking they can boss me around. Shouldn't they be punished? Shu Yan opened his mouth, then closed it again, at a loss for words. He rubbed his forehead quietly and stepped back. Yu Bingyan recovered from her initial shock and smiled gently at him as if to say, I didn't expect you and Ruo Ruo to be so playful. I'm surprised. Shu Yan returned an innocent look. He wanted to say this had nothing to do with him. He had been forced into it. But Yu Bingyan didn't believe him. She squeezed past Shu Yan and leaned against the doorframe to watch as Han Ruoro disciplined the 2 with words that didn't match her usual demeanor. Yu Bingyan observed Wu Ming and Ling Luochen closely. Shu Yan had described their looks and personalities before, but seeing them in person still surprised her. Both were stunning geniuses, proud and celestial, and both willing to be Shu Yan's concubines. Yu Bingyan felt a twinge of admiration. You little rascal, she thought. You've got some talent. Her gaze lingered on Wu Ming. The woman's figure suggested she would be good at bearing children, and the thought of grandchildren made Yu Bingyan secretly pleased. She wouldn't help raise them, but grandchildren sounded delightful, an unavoidable aspect of maternal affection. A moment later, Han Ruoro, which had been busy with her punishment, noticed Shu Yan still standing at the door. That wasn't his usual behavior. Yan, why aren't you coming in? She asked in confusion. When she turned and saw who stood in the doorway, her body froze. It wasn't Shu Yan beside the door at all. It was his mother. The color drained from Han Ruoro's face. Thunder cracked on a clear day. Dark clouds swallowed the sun. Ice and snow seemed to spread over the room. For a moment, Han Ruoro felt the world collapse around her. What she had been doing in private was private, an intimate affair, a boudoir secret she had tried so hard to hide, and now her mother-in-law had walked in on it. Han Ruoro's first impulse was to bang her head against the wall and die. But her emotional control and rationality pulled her back enough to force a trembling smile. Mom, when did you arrive? She managed. At the sound of Han Ruoro's voice, Wu Ming and Ling Luochen's eyes widened in terror. They remembered what Shu Yan had said 2 days ago and realized the implications. Panic surged through them. They tried to stand, but the golden rope still kept them pinned. Their struggles were futile. They collapsed back to the floor, utterly helpless. Tears welled in Wu Ming's eyes. Ling Luochen's expression was no better. Meeting Shu Yan's mother for the first time and being caught in such a compromising position made them feel as if the sky had fallen. Both turned pleadingly to Han Ruoruo. At that moment, Han Ruoruo herself was frozen, stilled like a puppet carved from stone. Chapter 153, Didi Beep Beep. My vacation felt like a special forces mission. I raced from Guangdong to Hunan to climb Mount Heng. The itinerary was so packed I barely had time to write, so I'll be taking 2 days off, the 31st and the 1st. Wishing everyone a healthy Dragon Boat Festival and a happy Children's Day. Chapter 154. On the eve of the daughter-in-law title and rumor contest. The whole scene was painfully awkward. Shu Yan sighed, pulled his mother back a few steps, and just before the door closed, he waved his hand. A cold breeze swept through that made Han Ruoruo shiver and finally snap out of her daze. Shu Yan could tell she was still stunned and would need time to recover. As for Wu Ming and Ling Luochen, they were fidgeting with barely contained impatience. Who wouldn't be rattled after being caught like that by one's future mother-in-law? Han Ruoruo was likely going to be swarmed by her 2 little pets later. Given the circumstances, Wu Ming and Ling Luochen couldn't be magnanimous even if they wanted to be, and Han Ruoruo herself would be too embarrassed to accept any leniency. After the door shut, Yu Bingyan regarded Shu Yan for a long time. Even Shu Yan felt a prickling at the back of his neck from being stared at. Having his mother walk in on such an incident was, truthfully, mortifying. The 3 girls, Han Ruoruo, Wu Ming, and Ling Luochen, each had their quirks and complemented each other so well in daily life that, as they grew closer, they had gradually dropped more and more of their restraint around Shu Yan. Clearing his throat, Shu Yan shifted the subject. By the way, Mom, have you decided on your titled Douluo name? Yu Bingyan understood immediately and didn't hesitate. Youth could be wild. She'd been young once too. Back when she and Shu Junyu had first gotten together, they hadn't been more restrained. I have, she said. Angel. With the Seraphim legacy gone, the sacred angel is the pinnacle of the angel spirit lineage. It's fitting that I take the angel-titled Douluo name. Anyone who objects, I'll cut down. The name Angel was arguably the most prestigious among angel lineage-titled Douluo names. Aside from Yu Bingyan, only Ye Gai had once held the sacred angel spirit. Ordinary angel spirit holders like Yu Mengdi couldn't even hope to contest that title. Shu Yan nodded. The name suits you, Mom. He hesitated, then added, Oh, by the way, I heard something recent. There might be a young girl with the sacred angel spirit in the Sun Moon Empire. Yu Bingyan's eyes lit up. A sacred angel legacy holder? Can you confirm it? Shu Yan nodded. I've got special intelligence channels in the Sun Moon Empire. It's confirmed. She looked at him intently for a moment, then said, I won't pry into how you get your information. But there's one thing I need you to do. Bring her back. The sacred angel legacy reappearing after 1,000 years, coinciding with my breakthrough in spirit evolution. That's fate. You didn't inherit my angel spirit, but the lineage must continue. It's not suitable for a sacred angel to stay in the Sun Moon Empire. Do you understand what I mean, Ayan? Shu Yan nodded. Don't worry, Mom. I understand. If the opportunity arises, I'll bring her back. Yu Bingyan smiled with satisfaction. The angel lineage had dwindled for so long that 2 sacred angels in one generation felt like a destined master-disciple bond. Who was better qualified to guide a sacred angel than another sacred angel? There were other possibilities, but Yu Bingyan had a different plan. She wanted that girl to become one of her daughters-in-law. The union of geniuses produced stronger geniuses. At best, Shu Yan and that prospective daughter-in-law would have children among whom one might inherit the sacred angel spirit. Even if some descendants' spirits mutated into offshoots, Dark Angel, Space Angel, Ice Angel, Yu Bingyan would still welcome it. All of them were angel lineage members, and that would revitalize the angel family. Whether the girl would agree was a minor concern. Yu Bingyan had absolute confidence in her son. She changed the topic after a moment. Have you thought of Ruoruo's titled Douluo name? Elder Han made some suggestions, though his taste isn't the best. She wasn't wrong. Elder Han had suggested names like Golden God or Myriad Rope, which made Han Ruoruo want to hide her face forever. Shu Yan smiled. I've thought of one, Shimmering Gold. If Ruo is too lazy to be picky, she agreed to shimmering gold Douluo. I think it fits. Yu Bingyan considered it and approved. Shimmering gold Douluo was far better than the alternatives. Half an hour later, Yu Bingyan was settled on the plush sofa, watching the three young women sitting opposite her with a fond smile. Young people can joke around, but you need a sense of propriety, she chided gently. Ro, you're the eldest. Don't be so reckless. Today it was me who walked in. If it had been someone else, it could have been troublesome. Do you understand? Hanroro nodded quickly. She hadn't expected this either. Nothing like it had happened before. But she kept such thoughts to herself and answered obediently. Mom, I understand. It was just an accident. We were just playing. Wu Ming and Ling Luochen scorned Hanroro in their hearts but didn't show it. Yu Bingyan wouldn't stay in Shrek City forever, and Hanroro would still have power later, better to keep friendly. Yu Bingyan then turned to Wu Ming and Ling Luochen, smiling warmly. Minger, you've grown even more beautiful, but this time don't call me auntie. Wu Ming flushed and corrected herself. Mom, that's better. Yu Bingyan nodded, and her gaze landed on the cool, reserved Ling Luochen. Ling Luochen shivered slightly but gathered herself and spoke up. Mom, I'm Ling Luochen. I believe Yan has already mentioned me. Yu Bingyan laughed. Leader of the younger generation of the Ling family in Heaven Do City, the Snow Princess, and a contemporary Shrek 7 devil. It's a shame you had to follow Yan. If he ever bullies you, tell me and I'll deal with him for you. Ling Luochen behaved respectfully on the surface, but inside she was secretly pleased. She didn't entirely dislike being teased by Shu Yan. It was even better if he didn't gang up with Han Ruoro and Wu Ming. The four women clustered together and began to chat and pick at Shu Yan good-naturedly, pushing him to the edge of the sofa. He just smiled helplessly. These four were his weaknesses, and there was nothing he could do but indulge them. Yu Bingyan didn't stay in Shrek City long. Her main purpose had been to meet her three daughters-in-law. She also wanted to return to Lingdo City to cultivate in seclusion and break through to Saint Grad 94 in preparation for the Super Douluo rank. She'd long been eager to surpass Shu Junyo after having been suppressed by him all these years. She also hoped to give the Shu family another child, a sibling for Shu Yan, so the main branch would no longer be single line. If fate was kind and she bore another peerless genius, the Shu family could rise to a continental power like Shrek Academy. After Yu Bingyan left, Shu Yan, Wu Ming, and Ling Luochen thoroughly punished Han Roro until she was hoarse from begging for mercy. Of course, Han Roro let them because she felt guilty. After she'd recovered, she planned to make sure they wouldn't be so presumptuous again. Wu Ming recovered faster. Among the three girls, she was the most willing to cooperate with Shu Yan's teasing, leaving him lots of opportunities to train them over time. Shiji had been prickly at first, but had softened as well, the sort of person who wouldn't be tamed overnight, but gradually. Time passed, and the spirit fighting competition drew near. The Shrek 7 Devils roster had been settled. Chen Zifeng withdrew with regret, but was reasonable about it. His relationship with Shu Yan was good, and he prioritized strength and training, so he planned to continue refining his sword Dao and decide later whether to stay at Shrek Academy or return to his family. Aside from Chen Zifeng, the main selections didn't change. Shu Yan, a spirit saint level, was the core. Ma Xiaotao, Dai Yuheng, and Ling Luochen were spirit emperors. The other three were high-rank spirit kings. With that lineup, even without Shu Yan, the team had a solid chance to win, provided they didn't run into the strongest spirit king in history, the death god envoy, in the Valley of Death. Ma Xiaotao had voluntarily given up the captaincy to Shu Yan, and no one objected. Ma Xiaotao felt awkward. Her teacher had almost pushed her to Shu Yan, but outsiders didn't see the whole story. Rumors spread quickly in the inner courtyard, especially thanks to Gongyang Mo, the courtyard's gossip leader. His talkative nature led to all kinds of speculation and meant Shu Yan was interrogated and tormented by the three girls for 3 days straight, enough to make him want to throttle the gossip monger. The outer courtyard had been bustling too. After fierce competition, the reserve team, made up of outer courtyard core disciples, was finally formed. The selection should have started 2 months earlier, but had been delayed. Xuanzi arranged a formal meeting between the main Shrek 7 Devils and the reserve team so the captains could each pick reserve members to spar and train with, accelerating their coordination. By vote, Captain Shu Yan was taken off the list and replaced by Ling Luochen. Everyone agreed. Shu Yan's strength was so overwhelming that whichever side he joined would virtually guarantee victory, making any practice pointless. Shu Yan didn't mind. He'd always treated the competition as a public outing with his girlfriends. Hanroro's application to accompany the reserve team had been approved. She'd join as a team leader. As the most senior inner courtyard student and a titled Douluo, there was little chance Yan Xiaojie would deny such a small request. After all, at the end of the day, the martial world, Jianghu, runs on human relationships more than raw fighting. If death were the only outcome, kinship and etiquette would mean nothing. Chapter 155, The Selection and Preparation, The Cruel Reality, The Journey to the Stars. That afternoon, the sky was low and brooding, dark clouds promising a storm. The air over Sea God Island felt heavy and still. There was hardly any wind. Because the island always had so much moisture, it didn't feel oppressively stuffy, just uncomfortably unlike its usual self. For once, Shu Yan wore the red school uniform that marked him as an inner courtyard student. He usually avoided it. Shrek's uniform was famously awkward, and only put it on when necessary. The inner courtyard technically required uniforms, but for outstanding students like Shu Yan, most teachers turned a blind eye. If you met someone less charitable, that could be awkward. When Shu Yan arrived, Ma Xiaotao and the others were already waiting. Xuanzi, perched on a rock, glanced at him, casually crushed the chicken bones in his hand, and grumbled, "Were you planning to take a nap at home before coming, kid?" Shu Yan smiled sheepishly. "Elder Xuan, I'm sorry. Something came up and delayed me a bit." It seemed Wu Ming was in a foul mood today and had dared to rile Xuanzi, so Shu Yan had had to spend some time calming her down. When he'd left, Wu Ming was still sulking. Ma Xiaotao, standing nearest, had noticed a faint red mark on Shu Yan's neck. She pursed her lips and said, "Let's go. Don't keep the outer courtyard juniors waiting. Time's money. Focus on cultivation." Her words hinted at what Shu Yan had been through. She was perceptive enough to have guessed more than she let on. The others didn't press the matter. After Xuanzi's few remarks, they rose, displayed their divine abilities, and moved toward the outer courtyard. Because of recent changes, the old Shrek 7 Devils reserve roster no longer applied. Still, when Shu Yan arrived at the meeting spot, two familiar faces made him blink, Huo Yuhao and Wang Dong. They exchanged awkward looks. The occasion left neither of them free to explain. Also recognizable were Bei Bei and Shu Sanqi, an outer courtyard's top attacker and its strongest defender. With their strong backgrounds, they were effectively already locked into main Shrek 7 Devils roles. Another was Hikato, dark-skinned and robust, the only prodigy of the Soul Guiding Device system and a rank 4 Soul Guiding Device master. Zhang Nanan, unsurprisingly, hadn't made the reserve Shrek 7 Devils. Her softbones rabbit spirit simply couldn't match the agility attack spirits of many 5th and 6th grade outer courtyard students who had reached Spirit Ancestor or above and came from far more powerful families. Previously, the Academy had given Jiang Nanan a spot to curry favor with Shu Sanqi. Now that Shu Sanqi no longer cared, what could an ordinary girl with no background and middling aptitude do against well-connected opponents? The spot went instead to a girl previously close to Shu Sanqi. Her spirit was the Lightning Eagle, a top-tier beast spirit with both offense and agility, and her family's foundation rivaled the Xuanming sect. If she allied with Shu Sanqi, the position of first heir would be hers. The last reserve team member was someone Shu Yan didn't at first recognize. When that young man introduced himself, Ning Tian, Spirit 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda, heir of the 9 Treasure Glazed Tile School, everything fit. The reserve team now included 6 members from top sects and families across the continent. How Huo Yuhao had gotten in was still mysterious to Shu Yan, but based on how the Academy picked people, the selection made its own kind of sense. In truth, the reserve team's role here was largely ceremonial, to broaden horizons at the competition against the main Shrek 7 Devils and to be dazzled by the so-called 10,000-year glory. It mattered that the main team came from inner courtyard ranks. Being named to the reserve team proved you had the qualifications to study in the inner courtyard, but staying on as a Shrek 7 devil once inside depended on your own strength. The inner courtyard was marginally fairer than the outer courtyard, but this world still bowed to aptitude, strength, and background. When all 14 were present, Xuanzi appeared and said, "Everyone, introduce yourselves. Get to know each other. After that, Ma Xiaotao and Ling Luochen, you two will pick team members as I instructed. Shu Yan, you can relax on the sidelines and don't get in this old man's way." Shu Yan didn't protest. He was really only there to show his face. With a step, he blinked dozens of meters away and settled down to watch. There would be a friendly match he could enjoy. The 7 reserve members showed a flicker of surprise at being watched so casually, but once Ma Xiaotao and the others finished introductions, the reserves quickly announced names, spirits, and cultivation levels. Then came the grouping. Xuanzi munched roasted chicken and watched the proceedings with amusement. When the time came, he announced the penalty for the losers, signaled the start of the friendly melee, and retired to the far side of the stands to enjoy more wine and meat. The match, however, held little suspense. Ling Luochen, an ultimate ice control type battle spirit emperor, fought with power comparable to a spirit saint. Her ultimate ice brought an unbearable cold that low-level spirit masters like Huo Yuhao couldn't withstand. They were frozen, trembling, their combat abilities suppressed. Dai Yueheng and the rest were similarly overwhelmed. The only one who could match Ling Luochen on the field was Ma Xiaotao, who had unleashed her full aura. Shu Yan watched Huo Yuhao and the others retreat to the edge of the arena, then teleported beside them. His sudden appearance startled the huddled group, who were still trembling, but Huo Yuhao recovered and exclaimed with surprise, "Senior Shu Yan." Shu Yan nodded and with a casual gesture eased the cold that clung to them. The chill faded, and Huo Yuhao and Wang Dong felt better. Wang Dong quickly pushed Huo Yuhao away, blushing, and tried to put about a meter between them. Huo Yuhao nearly stumbled but caught himself. Shu Yan smiled and asked with a teasing tone, "How did you sneak into the reserve team this time? What, did you sell yourself to the academy?" Huo Yuhao knew his strength and background lagged behind many of his peers. There were at least 5 first- or second-year students more qualified than he and Wang Dong for a spot on the team. He wasn't sure how he'd been chosen. He scratched his head and offered, half-joking, "Maybe my grilled fish was just too delicious? Everyone needed a cook along the way?" Shu Yan burst out laughing. Wang Dong pouted, jabbed Huo Yuhao in the side, and snapped, "Cook, my foot! This is my doing. I used some connections and arranged an agreement with the academy. Their backgrounds are what they are, so after the academy's review, the spots naturally went to us." Huo Yuhao blinked. He'd asked Wang Dong about this before and been brushed off. He hadn't expected the truth. Wang Dong remained nonchalant. "The academy only says reserves must come from our outer courtyard core disciples. It doesn't say reserves have to be the final winners of the selection match. Huo Yuhao, can you be serious once in a while? You think only about cultivating and grilling fish." Her words stung, but were true. Reality was often cruel. Every coveted spot was caught in a web of interests. Huo Yuhao's expression flickered, then straightened into sincerity. "Wang Dong, regardless, thank you." Wang Dong softened a little. "You know to thank me. Sometimes you're mature, sometimes childish. I don't know which. And you didn't waste the precious spirit item I went through so much trouble to get. You owe me, Huo Yuhao. If you don't train well, you'll never repay me." Huo Yuhao grinned. "Fine. If worst comes to worst, I'll be your cook and grill fish for you forever." Wang Dong scoffed, but said no more. Shu Yan watched their bickering and chuckled, then turned his attention back to the arena. Time flowed on. Shu Yan had little to occupy himself with. At Xuanzi's signal, the other 13 had tried to overwhelm him, but not one of them could even touch his clothes. The gap in power was obvious. Xuanzi wasn't surprised. A prodigy like Shu Yan couldn't be compared to ordinary students. Whether Shu Yan wanted to accept it or not, he had firmly stepped into the ranks of the world's top powers. His strength and influence grew with each passing day. Shrek Academy could no longer regard him as merely a student. He had become a dazzling new star. Legend was being born, and for many others, it was a harsh truth. Only 3 days remained until this year's competition. Xuanzi had left early that morning. He liked to be lazy, and handed leadership of the trip to the Star Luo Empire to Han Ruoro, who had just broken through to titled Douluo. Xuanzi trusted Han Ruoro's 100,000-year spirit ring and spirit bone, and he trusted that even if she ran into trouble she couldn't handle, Shu Yan would be there. That put his mind at ease. Han Ruoro looked resigned. With 3 days left, getting inner courtyard students to the Mingdo mountain range in western Star Luo Empire would be easy if it were only the inner courtyard students. Bringing 7 reserves, however, would slow them down. The slowest among the reserves, Huo Yuhao, had only just broken through to Spirit Grandmaster, and hauling them all would impede the group. Han Ruoro turned to Shu Yan and asked outright, "Yan, please help me." Shu Yan reached up and pinched Han Ruoro's soft cheek. Seeing her pleading expression, he waved a hand and said, "Gather up, I'll take you part of the way." Ma Xiaotao and the others nearby heard and hurried over. Rumors had it Shu Yan's control over spatial power had reached an almost abnormal level, so potent that even time Douluo Shixing would be at a disadvantage. Han Ruoro warned, "Don't panic if you feel dizzy. It's your first time going through spatial teleportation." Shu Yan's hand bloomed with a brilliant silver light that spread rapidly, enveloping everyone. Their auras shimmered and then vanished. 500 kilometers southwest of Shrek City, a spatial doorway opened slowly. Shu Yan and 2 others, Han Ruoro and Ling Luochen, walked through calmly. The rest tumbled out, dazed and disoriented, then lay scattered on the ground. Ma Xiaotao, with the highest cultivation among them, recovered first. She staggered up and looked around blankly, unsure where they were. One by one, Huo Yuhao, Wang Dong, and the others regained their senses. Shu Yan smiled. "Not bad. I thought you might be down for a while. But it's good. Time waits for no one. Get ready. We're moving on." Before they could say anything, Shu Yan acted again. A flash of silver light washed over them, and that dizzying sensation swept in once more. Chapter 156, Ma Xiaotao's Request and Shi Ji. Near a wetland in the northern reaches of the Star Luo Empire, the spatial gate opened again. One by one, Ma Xiaotao and the others tumbled out. Shu Yan and his 2 companions stepped out more steadily, Han Ruoro and Ling Luochen following, then they all landed without incident. Seeing the group's pale faces and the damp smell of sickness, Shu Yan sighed. "It's the second time, and you still haven't gotten used to it? I've been as careful as I can." Ma Xiaotao spat into her water skin, rinsed her mouth, then lifted her bright eyes and shot Shu Yan an indignant look. "I seriously suspect you're messing with us. I just don't have proof." "Yes! +1." Everyone echoed in agreement. The whole thing felt awful, especially for Ning Tian and Gongyang Mo, both support-type spirit masters. They still looked drained and could barely stand without leaning against rocks. Ling Luochen watched them with genuine puzzlement. She had traveled with Shu Yan through spatial teleportation several times and never felt sick. What was different for the others? What Ling Luochen didn't know was that if it hadn't been for Shu Yan's special care, she wouldn't be doing much better herself. Shu Yan knew how to be considerate to the people he cared about. Han Ruoro glanced at the swaying group, then at a nearby bubbling stream. "Let's rest here for a while," she said gently. "You're not in good shape to travel further right now." Everyone agreed. After taking stock of their surroundings, Ma Xiaotao asked, curious, "Where exactly are we?" "Northern Star Luo Empire, about 1,000 kilometers from Shrek Academy," Shu Yan replied, handing out some medicinal pills the Ye family had refined to Huo Yuhao and the others who were lowest in cultivation. Without them, their condition would have looked like they'd had their very essence drained. "What?" Ma Xiaotao's eyes widened. Everyone else showed the same stunned expression. They had only left Shrek Academy less than 5 minutes ago. How could they already be so far away? "If I wasn't traveling with all of you, I'd already be checking into a hotel in Star Luo City," Ma Xiaotao added, incredulous. Shu Yan spread his hands casually. "Stop freaking out. My control over spatial force has reached the point where I can perform long-distance teleportation. Spatial force is complicated, and its uses are nearly limitless. If you manage to master it in your lifetime, you'll understand." Huo Yuhao, still pale and shaky, asked, "Teacher Han, What cultivation level do you need to control spatial force? Han Ruo thought for a moment. Normally, after you condense a second soul core and break through to limit Douluo, you can manipulate some spatial force. But Yan is different. His spirit is innately spatially attuned, and many of his spirit rings come from powerful spatial attribute spirit beasts. With the opportunities he's had, he can control exceptionally strong spatial force at his current level. Huo Yuhao swallowed hard. You can only control spatial force after reaching limit Douluo? Wang Dong gave a small, encouraging pinch to Huo Yuhao's waist to snap him out of his daze. Keep going, Huo Yuhao. Your primary spirit is a very good quality. I can tell your mental force is better than many at your level. If you can cultivate it into something tangible, controlling spatial force isn't impossible. Han Ruo smiled warmly. She had a high opinion of Huo Yuhao. He had a pure heart and good character, though he'd lacked proper training in childhood. With better opportunities, he might have earned a reserve team spot. Ning Qian, propped up by Shi Si, spoke in a weak, embarrassed voice. Senior Sister Han, could I ask you and Senior Brother Shu Yan something privately once we get to Starluo City? Han Ruo accepted without hesitation. She sensed the question was significant, but as the heirs of rival forces, they had always kept things civil. Okay, if it's something to discuss later, that's fine. After about half an hour, everyone had recovered enough to continue. Shu Yan's 2 teleports had cut 1,000 kilometers off their journey, and he made it clear he wouldn't help cover the rest, something Han Ruo had wanted. The 2 teams needed time to integrate, as Xuanzi had instructed. Bei Bei and Huo Yuhao went down to the stream to catch fish using Bei Bei's electrical abilities. Huo Yuhao's grilled fish was famous in the outer courtyard, and even some inner courtyard students had heard of it. Nobody declined an opportunity to eat it. Shu Yan sat alone under a tree to cool off. Ma Xiaotao hesitated, then approached him. When she saw Han Ruo occupied and Ling Luochen distant, she leaned in. Shu Yan, can I ask a favor? Shu Yan glanced up. You could ask Ling Luochen to suppress the evil fire. She won't refuse right now. Ma Xiaotao looked like she wanted to say something else, but faltered. Then she forced the words out, cheeks flushed. I heard you helped Senior Sister Wu Ming evolve her spirit to ultimate fire. How did you do it? She added quickly, don't get me wrong, I won't take advantage. The Academy said if you're willing to help, they'll trade for treasures of equal value. Elder Xuan guaranteed it. Shu Yan regarded Ma Xiaotao for a moment, then answered carefully. I do have a method, but I need to see your sincerity first. Ma Xiaotao stiffened and then, embarrassed, blurted, there are so many people around. Isn't that sincere enough? Shu Yan blinked. No, sis, that's not at all what I mean. Am I really that casual? You're calling me casual? She shot back. Shu Yan shook his head and smiled wryly. I didn't mean that. Don't slander me. We'll talk when we get back to the academy. If we stay here any longer, Ruo and Ling Luochen will probably gang up and interrogate me. They both glanced toward camp. 2 pairs of faint, observant eyes were already fixed on every movement. Ma Xiaotao frowned and pouted. You scoundrel. I still don't get how you convinced those 2 senior sisters and that big ice block Ling Luochen to hang around you. If I were in their place, I'd glare at you wherever you went. Shu Yan couldn't help a small smile. If she were his girlfriend, he thought, she'd likely be turning red right now. Quit the green tea act. You're worse at it than Ling Luochen. I don't have the patience. Ma Xiaotao glared at him, puzzled and annoyed. Was she really inferior to Ling Luochen, even at pretending to be coy? After a well-earned meal of roasted fish, they pushed on toward the Mingdo mountain range in the west of the Starluo Empire. They reached the vicinity in the early hours the next day, about 50 li from the Empire's military base. The Mingdo Mountains were rugged and rich in rare metal veins, essential for crafting high-level spirit tools. Because of its strategic value, both the Starluo and Sun Moon Empires kept heavy forces around the passable areas of the range, with over 1 million soldiers stationed in total. Once at the rendezvous point, Ma Xiaotao fired a special red signal flare into the night. Soon, more than a dozen figures arrived from the distance, the whir of flying spirit tools breaking the forest's stillness. All of them were at Spirit Ancestor Realm or higher. The leader was already in the Spirit Saint Realm, which explained how he'd moved so quickly after detecting them. The newcomers surrounded the group. Shu Yan and Han Ruoro glanced at Dai Yueheng, who offered a reassuring nod before stepping forward to greet the spirit saint at the front, a man with 7 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 3 purple, and 2 black. After the customary greetings, Du Lacey led them to the military camp. Wang Dong and Huo Yuhao stayed near the rear. Huo Yuhao kept his head down, but Shu Yan could feel the emotional turbulence underneath. After all, it was Huo Yuhao's first time meeting the father who had existed only in legend. He was holding himself together remarkably well. Shu Yan and Han Ruoruo walked at the front together, one the newly promoted titled Douluo and team leader on the continent, the other the Douluo Continent's first prodigy. Their presence drew attention even within the military camp. In the central command tent, they met Dai Hao, a handsome, resolute middle-aged man who carried the bearing of a marshal, majestic but gentle. Everyone but Shu Yan, Han Ruoruo, and Ling Luochen offered formal salutations. Dai Yueheng even dropped to a knee in respect before his father. Dai Hao exchanged formal pleasantries, then briefed them on the latest intelligence about the Hand of Death bandit group. With that information in hand, Shu Yan, Han Ruoruo, and Ling Luochen excused themselves and departed to prepare, while Ma Xiaotao and the others stayed to speak further with Dai Hao. Later, Dai Hao left as well, and the group retired to the tents arranged for them. Entering the mountains at night to suppress bandits was rarely wise. Shu Yan and Han Ruoruo were ordered not to act unless strictly necessary, an arrangement Xuanzi had just telepathically confirmed. Shu Yan, with the gentle presence of Han Ruoruo at his side, kept quiet and watchful. They weren't supposed to act? That didn't stop Shu Yan from thinking about the Death God's envoy and the corpse explosion technique that had nearly wiped out the main Shrek 7 devils. The envoy's deeds were almost legendary, something even an evil soul master at Super Douluo level would have struggled to do. Under the bright moon and sparse stars while the others rested, Dai Yueheng left the tent and walked deeper into the camp. Han Ruoro and Ling Luochen meditated to recover. Shu Yan sat on a rough wooden bed, lost in thought. A resentful little voice broke the quiet. "Could you stop pressing on my head? It's really uncomfortable." Sigh. Shu Yan blinked and apologetically pinched Shiji's cheek. "Sorry, it's a bad habit. I won't do it next time." "Bah, next time again. I'm never believing that line from you," Shiji huffed, glaring through gritted teeth. How had she ended up with a host like Shu Yan? She'd been bossed around all day and now bullied at night. Truly, she thought, the spirit beast was being put upon. Shiji leaned in closer and threatened, half in jest, "I'll drain you dry, you bastard. Let's see how you manage if you can't even pay your rations." Shu Yan gently stroked her and thought Shiji had been acting silly lately. If she could really drain him dry on her own, that would be a major problem. But since she didn't realize the danger, he let her carry on. After all, the more capable they were, the more responsibility they had to shoulder, and Shiji was definitely more durable than some of the others. Chapter 157. The strongest spirit king in history arrives in Star Luo City and Ma Xiaotao. The Hand of Death bandit group was active in the central Mingdo mountain range. Its members were all young adults, more than 300 in all, who hid in the border regions between the Star Luo and Sun Moon empires, using the difficult terrain to mask their movements. They struck at night without a fixed pattern, though, in truth, they did have targets. Because of the sensitive border and the terrain, the armies of both empires found it hard to act. Any misstep could spark a war, and the Star Luo Empire had no desire for that. So the dirty work naturally fell to the Shrek inspection team. After a night's rest, the group set out again, going deeper into the Mingdo range under Ma Xiaotao's lead. Shu Yan was surprised to find that, even without Heavenly Dream, Huo Yuhao had acquired the rare spirit abilities of spiritual detection and sharing. The detection range wasn't large yet, but in terrain like this, those two skills were close to miraculous. Shu Yan and Han Ruoro trailed at a distance, watching the younger students. Han Ruoro appeared relaxed. Ma Xiaotao and the others were top inner courtyard students with high combat power and good teamwork. How hard could it be to wipe out a bandit group whose strongest member was only a spirit king? Many of the older students thought the same. If Shu Yan hadn't remembered the dangers from a previous life, he might have agreed, They might have expected only a few minor injuries at worst. After about an hour, they found traces of an evil soul master on a hillside. Shu Yan teleported up, pointed to an immortal cave below, and warned, "That's the place. Remember, the leader of the Hand of Death is an evil soul master. You all know the methods they use. Don't think you can just storm in because your cultivation is high. Use your heads and act carefully. If something goes wrong, you'll have no one to blame but yourselves." Hanruo chimed in at once. "Ayan's right. We'll monitor the fight. Beibei, you're in charge of reserves. Take care of Ningtian and Yuhao. Xiaotao, don't just worry about yourself like Ming'er. Watch out for your teammates." Beibei and Ma Xiaotao nodded. Hearing Evil Soul Master put everyone on guard. If it had been an ordinary bandit camp, they could have relaxed. An Evil Soul Master changed everything. As experienced students of Shrek Academy, they understood how vicious Evil Soul Masters could be. Malignant forces whose methods couldn't be measured by realm alone. One overlooked trick could be fatal. Beibei felt that keenly. His parents had died at the hands of Evil Soul Masters during an inspection. After the briefing, Shu Yan and Han Roro signaled, and the main 7 students, led by Ma Xiaotao, descended toward the cave. Beibei and the reserve team followed at a distance. Huo Yuhao's spiritual detection and sharing were fully active, and spirits were high. Han Roro watched the fearless juniors with a wry smile. "I hope they'll still be this confident after they truly meet the horror of an evil soul master," she murmured. "I was just like them once, but more than a decade has passed. I'm getting old." Shu Yan looped an arm around her waist, reached up and playfully pinched her cheek. "Ruo, you'll always be 18 to me," he said. Han Roro blushed and kissed him on the tip of the nose. "Talk is cheap. If you're good, I'll reward you when we're back in Star Luo City. Remember those black stockings you asked for last time?" Shu Yan admired her slender legs for a moment, then Han Roro cleared her throat and pushed him away, sobering. "We've got work to do. Come on, we should follow at a safe distance. Don't let anything happen." Shu Yan had not been idle. He had noticed the strongest spirit king in history, the Death Messenger, lurking in the shadows. If they'd been slower, they might have faced an 8-person funeral. In the deep, damp cave, Shu Yan and Han Roro flew in side by side. The sight that met them made Han Roro's face harden. Infant corpses impaled on stone pillars, covered in blood. Her hands balled into fists. Since she'd decided to have a child, her maternal instincts were heightened. If this hadn't been a mission for the juniors, she would have torn those monsters apart with the golden rope. They pushed deeper and soon found themselves in a larger cavern where the fight was already underway. Huo Yuhao, supporting from the rear, suddenly shouted, "Get out of the way!" Before Han Roro could react, Shu Yan teleported them all, Ma Xiaotao and the core fighters at the center of a looming corpse explosion, out of harm's way in an instant too quick for the eye to follow. Ma Xiaotao came to herself with furious eyes. The near miss had shown her just how deadly that corpse explosion could be. She instantly lit her 2nd, 3rd, and 6th spirit rings. Evil fire, nearly as powerful as ultimate fire, flared to life. Augmented by Phoenix Wing Heavenly Flight, Ma Xiaotao's Phoenix Evil Fire caused the phoenix behind her to scream into the cave's rafters. Fire meteors condensed in the air and then rained down among the bandits, turning the cavern into a hell of blazing heat. The bandits were reduced to ash. Even Ling Luochen, master of ultimate ice, could not help but swallow. Ma Xiaotao's Phoenix Evil Fire was terrifying. Huo Yuhao called out, "One got away. Back there." Ma Xiaotao's phoenix eyes swept the flaming wreckage. She and Ling Luochen, despite previous disagreements, moved with perfect cooperation. Ling Luochen released her spirit and sealed the cavern with ultimate ice, snuffing the inferno. Ma Xiaotao beat her wings and charged, slamming into the Death Messenger and bending him nearly double. The ice quelled the fire. Everyone advanced and found the culprit who had nearly killed them. Dai Yuheng struck first, crushing one of the Death Messenger's legs into pulpy ruin. Yao Haoshuan and Shi Shi, who'd been at the center of the corpse explosion, looked grim. They'd known exactly how close they'd come. A Spirit King-level Evil Soul Master's corpse explosion had the power to kill a Spirit Saint. If Shu Yan hadn't acted, they would likely be corpses now. "Everyone else, search the nearby area for any others who slipped away," Shu Yan ordered. Then, turning to Yao Hao Swan and the others, he added, "As for you lot, you know what to do." They gratefully looked at Shu Yan. Han Ruoro used the golden rope to pull Huo Yuhao and the younger students out of the cave. The scene inside was not suitable for youngsters. Once it was over, Shu Yan sat on an exposed boulder and watched everyone. Yao Hao Xuan and the others exchanged looks before Yao Hao Xuan stepped forward and thumped his chest. "Brother Shu Yan, we can't thank you enough. If you need anything in the future, come to us. We won't hesitate." The others nodded soberly. They knew how tragic things could have been without Shu Yan. They were grateful their teachers that day had been Han Roro and Shu Yan, rather than someone less capable. Swanzi had been watching from the shadows and silently breathed a sigh of relief. When that corpse explosion went off, he'd nearly panicked. He'd half expected to make history again, but fortunately, Shu Yan and Han Ruoro had been there to prevent disaster. Shu Yan looked at the group and said quietly, "Learn your lesson. Evil soul masters are vicious. Be careful next time. I don't want to be attending an 8-person funeral." Everyone nodded repeatedly. This time, they truly had learned something. After the mission, they returned to the Star Luo Empire military camp for a night's rest. Early the next morning, Shu Yan led them on another trip. With the previous experience, they all moved more smoothly. By the second afternoon, they reached Star Luo City and, under arrangements from imperial officials, checked into the Star Emperor Hotel. Shrek Academy had dominated Douluo competition championships for a long time, so they enjoyed top treatment. They had the entire top floor of the Star Emperor Hotel, and their meals and lodging were covered by the Star Luo government, a small perk for a school of Shrek's caliber. In a brightly lit hall, people took their seats by rank. Shu Yan sat at the head. He casually dropped the documents in his hand and said, "The rest is up to you. I won't interfere unless absolutely necessary." Ma Xiaotao and the others nodded without surprise. A knock sounded on the door. Wang Dong went to open it, and Wu Ming's bright face appeared as she swaggered in, waving. "You guys are late. I've been waiting in Star Luo City for a day." Wu Ming glanced at Shu Yan, then looped her arm through Han Ruoro's and laughed. There was a small accident on the road, but nothing serious. Shu Yan stood, and Ling Luochen rose as well. When they reached the door, Shu Yan turned back, cleared his throat, and said, "Handle the match schedules for the next few days yourselves. We have other matters to attend to. If anything comes up, contact us through the Soul Guide device. Have a good time." He left with Han Ruoro and the other 2 women, politely closing the door behind them. The hall fell quiet for a moment. Shu Sanchi, sitting beside Beibei, asked cautiously, "Senior brother Shu Yan and the others, what are they up to?" Ma Xiaotao rubbed her forehead and said with a shrug, "They went on a date. Don't mind them." "A date?" Several outer courtyard students exclaimed in shock. Ma Xiaotao felt a strange flutter, but kept a neutral face. "If you know, don't spread it." She faltered, then added, "Well, never mind. If people want to gossip, they will." She went on, lowering her voice. "As you see, Ling Luochen, senior sister Han Ruoro, senior sister Wu Ming, the woman who just came in is a spirit Douluo powerhouse, arguably the 3rd strongest in the inner courtyard. All 3 of them are that guy Shu Yan's girlfriends. Odd, isn't it?" Beibei and the others seemed surprised, but their expressions quickly shifted to casual acceptance. They knew Shu Yan's abilities and charm. Several girlfriends didn't seem impossible. Ma Xiaotao's mouth twitched. "Why do you all look like that? How many gold coins did Shu Yan bribe you with? Are young people's minds really that open now?" Beibei coughed and tried to soothe her. "Senior sister Xiaotao, calm down. For most people this would be huge news, but not for senior brother Shu Yan. He's done stranger things, like breaking through to Spirit Saint before he was 15. The more capable you are, the more complicated life gets. Besides, the 3 senior sisters chose him willingly. Honestly, they suit him perfectly. It'll make a good story someday." Ma Xiaotao felt as if she'd taken a critical hit. Still, Beibei's words opened a new possibility in her mind. She glanced down at herself, then at her reflection in the tabletop. Maybe she and Shu Yan together could be a perfect match too. She didn't think she was any worse than the others, after all. Chapter 158. Critiquing Aristocratic Life. Zoo Director Han Ruoro and the Shu Family. The three women were in high spirits as they walked through the bustling streets of Douluo City, and Shu Yan trailed behind them with a faint smile. He didn't particularly enjoy shopping, and he couldn't fathom how women could discuss a single garment for an hour without tiring. Still, he remained patient. He spoiled his women. If he couldn't put up with this much, he didn't deserve the harem he had. Douluo Empire was the most powerful nation among the three original continent kingdoms, with comprehensive strength rivaling Tianhun and Duling combined, though it still lagged far behind the Sun-Moon Empire. As the empire's capital, Douluo City was extraordinarily prosperous, especially now, with the Douluo competition about to begin. The whole city was buzzing. More than 20 million people lived here. In an era with limited entertainment, the Douluo competition was held every 5 years, and Douluo hosted it only every 15 years. Such a world-class event drew enormous attention and generated lavish revenue for the empire. After shopping until the early hours, Han Ruo and the three women finally returned to the Star Emperor Hotel to rest. Shu Yan, their ever-faithful attendant, welcomed his freedom. Heaven knew what he had endured the last few hours. It had been more exhausting than fighting Xuanzi. Yet the outing had its perks. Passing by a discreet aristocratic boutique, Shu Yan, following Han Ruo's teasing campaign against the decadence of the nobility, had bought several bedding items the proprietor urgently recommended, simply to experiment with them with Han Ruo and the others. No sooner had he taken the strange items out in the hotel than all three women flushed crimson. Ling Luochen, perched on the edge, swallowed, a hand flying to her face as she turned away and stammered, "I have a match tomorrow. I can't mess around. Yan, you and Minger and Ruo can fool around. I'm going to bed." She fled before anyone could protest. Han Ruo dared not look directly at the contraptions and, voice trembling slightly, said, "Yan, why don't you let Minger stay with you two? I'm not feeling well. I want to rest early." Shu Yan's lips twitched. Spatial power filled the room like a silken tide. He glanced at Han Ruo and the other women, small and indulgent as lambs, and said with wicked amusement, "I'll let Luochen go only because her cultivation is the lowest and she has a match tomorrow. But the two of you? Not going anywhere tonight." Before they could react, Shu Yan began stripping them amid much flustered exclamations from Han Ruo and Wu Ming. The night that followed was turbulent. The next morning, Ling Luochen returned with a trembling hand and a room card. She opened the door and took in the disaster zone, blankets on the floor, clothing scattered. After a soft, disgusted huff, she tiptoed in, gently pulled the thin blanket back over two flawless bodies, smooth as white jade and soft as lamb's fat, and stood there, breathless. Sensing the movement, Han Ruo opened half-lidded sleepy eyes. Wu Ming cuddled closer into her embrace. Seeing their skin touch made Ling Luochen swallow hard. The sight was undeniably tempting. A faint, pleasant scent lingered in the room. Ling Luochen felt her cheeks warm. She slapped her face lightly and scolded herself. She'd picked up very bad habits from Shu Yan and Wu Ming. Falling in love changed a person. She had been pure once, and now her mind entertained improper thoughts. Shu Yan stepped out of the bathroom after a warm bath. Ling Luochen shot him an angry look. "You lot, moderate yourselves. Keep this up, and I'm afraid you'll end up dying in bed someday." Shu Yan ignored her. Lately, he hadn't been disciplining the little girl, and she had begun to forget who was in charge enough to lecture him. "All right, get up, everyone. The opening ceremony is about to start, and the lead instructors must be present." Han Ruo woke enough to stretch her arms toward Shu Yan, clearly asking for a hug. Shu Yan obliged with a smile, picking her up. With Ling Luochen's help, he dressed Han Ruo in the clothes they had prepared, piece by piece. Wu Ming eventually lazily rose to wash after the others were ready. Thanks to Shu Yan's teleportation, the four still managed to get to the opening ceremony on time. By the time they reached Douluo Plaza, Emperor Shu Jiawei had already arrived. The host announced the first elimination match, Shrek Academy versus the unfortunate Tianling Advanced Spirit Master Academy from the Duling Empire. Ling Luochen rejoined her team at once. As she did, Ma Xiaotao glanced at Shu Yan with no small measure of resentment. Han Ruo noticed and linked her arm through Shu Yan's, laughing softly. "My A Yan's charm is potent," she teased. "Even Dean Yan's top disciple is captivated. Are you planning to save a spot for her in your harem? Wu Ming bristled at that. Among their group, Han Ruoro was the indisputable leader. Ling Luochen had deferred. Ling Luochen the second, and Han Ruoro's place as the first to experience things was clear. Wu Ming, meanwhile, bore the title of Little San, the third sister, a label she didn't much like. Shu Yan chuckled. Having you few is more than enough. Han Ruoro pinched the soft flank of his waist and whispered, You said at first that only I was enough. Now look, you've already got 2 sisters. Did I say that? Shu Yan asked, feigning ignorance. Of course you did. Han Ruoro shot back, bearing a cute little smirk. Shu Yan surrendered with a laugh. He had been at fault from the beginning and saw no use arguing. Han Ruoro rested her head on his arm and murmured, Since things are like this, I don't mind you finding a few more sisters, but they must be from good families if not noble, and they must know the rule. First come, first served. You understand? It was her compromise. What else could she do? Shu Yan was powerful and inventive in his affections. Even if the 3 of them joined together, sometimes they still couldn't satisfy him. If expanding the circle meant keeping their lives peaceful, Han Ruoro could accept it. She could raise more little ones like she'd raised kittens and puppies. She liked small animals, after all. Shu Yan was surprised by her sudden acquiescence. He hugged Han Ruoro and lowered his voice. Ruoro Jie, meeting you has truly been the greatest fortune I've had in 2 lifetimes. Han Ruoro hummed and did not deny him. Wu Ming watched, then insistently wedged herself into the embrace. 1 hug, 2 hugs. Don't leave me out. I'm not afraid of what others say. Shu Yan smiled helplessly, holding 2 beauties while looking out over the sea of people, feeling something he couldn't name. Idle chatter would always exist, but at the top it faded away. Whatever his goals, he would strive to reach the peak. Only at the top could he keep everything and everyone he cared about close. By then, the first round of eliminations had already finished. Shrek Academy dominated the reformed Douluo competition in terrifying fashion, especially since the 7 main monsters were all present. Teams like Tianling Advanced Spirit Master Academy were unable to make a dent. Even Shrek's reserve team could probably have beaten them. Of the 133 teams participating, strength varied widely. Only a handful of well-known teams could realistically make it to the semifinals and finals. Most teams were there in name, hoping luck would carry them. While Shu Yan and the women chatted and watched the field, someone on the distant city wall watched them closely. Brother, that black-haired youth is Shu Yan, and with him are the newly promoted titled Douluo, the Shaking Gold Douluo, and Shrek Academy's inner courtyard student, Golden Crow Saintess Wu Ming. The speaker was a golden-haired girl whose beauty rivaled Jiang Nanen's. Bright-eyed, charming, and elegant in everything she did, she was Shu Juju, the youngest and most outstanding sister of the Star Luo Emperor, Shu Jiawei. Imperial blood was rare. Being a cultivation prodigy of the Star Crown sect was rarer still. At under 20, Shu Juju had already reached level 58 cultivation. Given more months, she might have been eligible to compete as a Spirit Emperor, and her presence could have raised Star Luo's National Academy team considerably. A middle-aged man in luxurious robes with an octagonal purple-gold crown nodded slightly behind her. It was Emperor Su Jiawei himself. As both ruler and genius, his spirit power, cultivation, and eyesight were sharp. Even from a distance, he could see the scene clearly. Heroes emerge among the young, Shu Jiawei observed. This one is wilder and more romantic than I ever was. Once, Shu Jiawei had used an alias to study at Shrek Academy. Youthful genius inclined toward romance and abandon. Listening to his words, Shu Juju smiled faintly. They say he isn't even 15 yet. To be so unrestrained at that age, soon he may become a peerless romantic of the continent. Shu Jiawei chuckled and teased. Juju, you'd suit him well. It's a shame he already has several. Otherwise, this could be a match made in heaven. Shu Juju lightly stamped her foot. Imperial brother, I have no interest in such a passionate man, no matter how handsome or talented. Besides, he carries dueling imperial blood. Shu Jiawei's smile grew wider. You saying that sounds like a cover for having a favorable impression of Shu Yan. Rising to fame young and being passionate are not faults. If you were a man with his talents, you might not be any different. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. As for his dueling blood, This could be useful. The dueling imperial family is weakening, and there are rumblings of power shifting to the Shu family. If it plays out that way, this young man could become the undisputed heir of the dueling empire. The high priest has even said Shu Yan has a high chance of becoming a limit Douluo in the future, or rising beyond that. The Sun-Moon Empire in the west is stirring, Shu Jiawei continued. With such a threat, our three kingdoms of the original continent, together with Shrek Academy, must unite. Otherwise, this world will fall to foreign races. Shu Juju understood the implication. Star Luo faced a grave situation. The Sun-Moon Empire had reportedly made major breakthroughs in soul-guiding device technology, and Star Luo's counterplans had been hamstrung by a critical failure. If Shu Yan were less temperamentally romantic, Shu Juju might seriously consider deepening their relationship. Which girl didn't dream of love? Even Shu Juju, raised in the palace and steeped in ambition, was no exception. Setting aside his temperament, Shu Yan represented an ideal partner, handsome, talented, and beneficial. If she could be with him, the advantages were immense. Seeing her gaze grow distant, Shu Jiawei sighed quietly. For geniuses you could not suppress, the strategy was to win them over. Shu Yan's identity made him a difficult case, but befriending him was feasible and potentially crucial. Chapter 159, Top-Tier Auction, Confessions, and the Promotion of Soul Spirits. The remaining matches went smoothly. The Shrek 7 Devils were supremely powerful. Even with Huo Yuhao sitting out and only watching, among the 6 who competed there were 3 Spirit Emperors and 3 high-level Spirit Kings above rank 55. That lineup, even without their strongest member, was far beyond what ordinary Spirit Master teams could contend with. Top teams would struggle to withstand the combined ice and fire assaults from Ma Xiaotao and Ling Luochen. As they swept through the contests, teams that already feared Shrek Academy were driven to outright terror when they faced Ma Xiaotao and the others. Most chose to concede before the match even started. The unlucky few who actually met them on the battlefield almost always gave up. Ma Xiaotao and her teammates felt a little awkward about winning too easily, so against average teams, they often sent in reserves, letting Bei and the younger members gain experience. Shu Yan had watched a few matches from the stands at first, but he soon grew bored and wandered off with Han Ruoro and Wu Ming. Exploring turned out to be even duller than the stands, and he returned with nothing better to do. That evening, as everyone was finishing dinner, an auctioneer from the Starlight Auction House knocked on their door. The one delivering the invitations was Qingya. She'd shown a mild interest in Wang Yan in the original story. Since Han Ruoro had taken Wang Yan's place this time, their destined encounter never occurred. Qingya nevertheless remained politely modest. With little spirit power of her own, she only had access to high society through her connections and the backing of the Starlight Auction House. "Come on, join the fun. It'll be good for you to relax a bit," she urged. Feeling the gazes on him, Shu Yan decided on the spot to go. Huo Yuhao and the younger members' eyes lit up with surprise. They'd heard about the Starlight Auction House. Items at such top-tier auctions were never ordinary. High-level soul-guiding devices and spirit bones frequently appeared. Even if they couldn't afford anything, it was worth widening their horizons. Private room number 7 at the Starlight Auction House was sumptuously appointed. Everyone looked around in amazement. Huo Yuhao, who came from modest means, was particularly stunned. He had never seen true high society. Even a casual ornament in the corridor could equal a lifetime's earnings from selling grilled fish. When the light guide screen from the Sun-Moon Empire slowly opened, a rich golden glow spilled out and then subsided. A melodious voice announced, "Welcome, distinguished guests, to the Starlight Auction House's top-tier auction. Tonight we present 9 precious items, listed in order of increasing value. Please enjoy." The soul-guiding device display cleared, and a faintly white platform showed a young woman in red gauze, Shu Juju, appearing no more than 18 or 19. As an Empire princess, she was stunningly beautiful and carried an elegant bearing that made every movement magnetic. Dai Yueheng's soul-searching question about her made Shu Yan curious. Dai Yueheng was a renowned prodigy from a top noble family and returned home each year despite studying at Shrek, so Shu Yan wondered how he could have no impression of the Emperor's favored daughter. After the auctioneer's introductions, Douluo and the others were surprised as expected. Shu Yan sat quietly at the side. His main interest in the auction was the 70,000-year Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone. Ice Blast was a divine skill of the ice attribute. While Shu Yan had more powerful spatial abilities, he never objected to adding another trump card. He didn't plan to fuse with the Spirit Bone, though. Spirit abilities are origin skills contained within a spirit beast's bloodline, and Ice Blast only appears in Ice Jade Scorpions with the royal bloodline. Shu Yan intended to experiment, combine his power with Tianmeng's, Sheiji's, and Elakes's to see if Ice Empress could comprehend the origin of Ice Blast without fusing to the Ice Jade Scorpion bone. If the experiment worked, it wouldn't matter who won the bone. Shu Yan's own left arm bone had reached 400,000 years. Fusing a 70,000-year bone wouldn't push him to 500,000 years. So it might be better to let Ling Luochen, who also used Ultimate Ice, take it. Ice Jade Scorpion bones were super spirit beast quality, comparable to top true dragon bones. They would significantly boost Ling Luochen's power. The auction proceeded much as before in the original account. Douluo bid on the first item, an 8th-level soul-guiding device called the Tyrant Tiger Purgatory Blade. With Han Roro's permission, Huo Yuhao and the others bid on a set of 12 6th-level fixed-load soul-guiding cannons to take back for research. Soon after, Ning Tian, acting personally, bought a 40,000-year left arm bone from a top-tier plant spirit beast, the Golden Sunflower. That bone would likely be for herself. Most Golden Sunflower bones give auxiliary or amplification spirit abilities. Only rare mutated variants produce attack-type abilities. Ning Tian's noble upbringing made her discerning. She could tell at a glance this bone wasn't suitable for attack talents, which is why she bought it. The 9-treasure glazed tile school had been the continent's wealthiest organization for 10,000 years, richer once than even an empire's treasury. For them, gold coins were plentiful. Han Roro liked a left leg bone, but Shu Yan discouraged her. Unless a bone under 50,000 years was truly exceptional, they didn't need to bid. The rare metals and an 8th-level soul-guiding device named the Heaven-Opening, Earth-Splitting Cannon drew no real interest. Shu Yan only thought of his own 7th-level decomposition cannon, which he'd bought 2 years ago and now found obsolete. His strength had advanced too quickly. He planned to give that 7th-level decomposition cannon to Ling Luochen in a few days. She was currently the weakest among his companions, and the cannon would give her a trump card to protect herself. Properly used, its power could even kill a titled Douluo. When the heaven-opening earth-splitting cannon sold for 7 million gold coins, the auction's second-last item finally appeared, the 70,000-year Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone. In Shu Yan's spiritual sea, Ice Empress's hands clenched. Even though Shu Yan had already told her about the bone, she could not hide her fury. A possession of Ice Blast proved the scorpion came from the royal bloodline and had nearly a 90% chance to reach 100,000 years and become a beast king. That a junior of their kind, an Ice Jade Scorpion who might become a future beast king, had been hunted by humans, enraged Ice Empress. After forcing her anger down, she spoke in a deep voice. "Ayan, you must get that spirit bone, no matter what." Shu Yan murmured agreement and comforted Ice Empress briefly. He wasn't going to let the bone fall into the wrong hands. Ice Jade Scorpion bones, as products of a super race of ultimate ice, were dangerous. They could not be absorbed by spirit masters who lacked the ultimate ice attribute without causing severe injury or death from backlash. Once the bone was on display, everyone's gaze turned to Ling Luochen, including Huo Yuhao and the rest. They all knew Ling Luochen was an ultimate attribute spirit master, specifically ultimate ice. The Ice Jade Scorpion, as the dominant race of the extreme north, was covered in Shrek Academy's curriculum. Ling Luochen felt everyone looking at her and glanced at Shu Yan with a questioning look. Shu Yan smiled, pinched her cheek, and said, "This bone can only be yours. It's useless in others' hands. Unless someone is an ultimate ice spirit master, they can't absorb it." "What about you?" she asked, concerned. As Shu Yan's closest partner, she knew many things, even about his second spirit, the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion. "I don't need it," Shu Yan said. I already have a left arm bone from the Ice Jade Scorpion clan. Compared to mine, this one's ordinary. He was right. A 70,000-year Ice Jade Scorpion bone was excellent, but it couldn't compare to a 400,000-year Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion left arm bone. Ling Luochen brightened at that and nodded. She felt the bone might suit Shu Yan more, but since he already had a superior left arm bone, she could genuinely go for it herself. Ma Xiaotao and the others sensed something odd. After thinking for a moment, Ma Xiaotao slapped the table and looked at Shu Yan. You said only ultimate ice spirit masters can absorb Ice Jade Scorpion bones, so you, aren't you? Shu Yan met her gaze and answered plainly. I'm a twin spirit. My primary spirit is Yazi, and my second spirit is the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion. By seniority, my second spirit is regarded as an ancestor of the Ice Jade Scorpion clan. Twin spirits. But you told Elder Xuan you had only one spirit before. Ma Xiaotao jumped to her feet, excitement making her slap the table again. See? You're always hiding things. Shu Yan raised a hand, motioning for her to sit, and explained. My second spirit is unusual. I acquired it while cultivating in the extreme north. Essentially, my second spirit formed from the origin of a vicious beast, with some added opportunity, allowing it to become my spirit. That's the gist of it. Formed from the origin of a vicious beast. This time everyone, except the few who already knew, looked at Shu Yan in disbelief and shock. Shu Yan nodded, raised his right hand, and a layer of diamond-like ice crystals slowly formed on it. The room's temperature dropped more than 10 degrees in an instant, turning the warm atmosphere icy. Ma Xiaotao shivered as though frozen in fear. The second of the three great heavenly kings of the extreme north, the 400,000-year Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion. Shu Yan chuckled before continuing. Not long ago, by chance, I created a new life form, what I call a soul spirit. In simple terms, it's extracting a spirit beast's soul and origin power without killing it, and fusing that into a spirit master as a spirit ring while allowing the beast to retain its consciousness. From my experiments, even a mere 100-year soul spirit can condense two 200-year spirit rings of the same age for a spirit master, and a 10,000-year soul spirit can provide 4 10,000-year spirit rings. I see terrifying potential in this. If you're brave, come find me later and be the first batch of pioneers for soul spirits. A light blue sprout slowly rose from Shu Yan's palm, and a blood-red spirit ring followed it into the air. A 100,000-year, octagonal, mysterious ice grass soul spirit. It can produce at least 4 or 5 100,000-year spirit rings, but I'm only letting it condense one ring. You can try to interact with it and feel the mystery of this soul spirit. The octagonal, mysterious ice grass floated from Shu Yan's hand, leaving a pale blue trail. Everyone recovered from their astonishment and approached, each eager to sense the soul spirit's presence. Han Ruoro and Wu Ming exchanged looks with Shu Yan. He met theirs with a blink. Promoting soul spirits would only be a matter of time, but it required reputable pioneers. Ma Xiaotao and the others, top students of Shrek Academy, were the obvious first candidates. Chapter 160, The Heart of the Artifact Space, The Hijacked Goods, and Shu Yan's Background. While everyone watched the soul spirit with curiosity and surprise, Han Ruoro rose and opened the private room door. She called a maid over and whispered something. The maid hurried off, and soon the elegant auctioneer returned. There should have been an auctioneer from the Starlight Auction House to introduce rules and assist with bids, but the guests had only asked the elegant auctioneer to summarize the rules and then been content to let her rest. She knew her place. Long experience in upper circles had given her fine social instincts. She stepped back the moment her services were no longer needed, neither hesitating nor offended. Han Ruoro beckoned her nearer and murmured a few words into her ear. The smile on the auctioneer's face faded into a grave expression. She took a breath. Esteemed guests, I will report this immediately. Please wait a moment. She bowed and hurried away. Less than a minute later, the image of Shu Juju on the light-guided screen shifted subtly. She looked toward the audience and gave a faint, composed chuckle. Because this item is extraordinarily precious, Starlight Auction House will extend the viewing time by 10 minutes so all guests may consider carefully. Shujuju bowed, then disappeared from the screen in a graceful flourish. The door knocked, and Hanroro stepped back to open it. Shujuju entered, flanked by the elegant auctioneer, and addressed the room with restrained urgency. Which esteemed guest reported a problem with our ice jade scorpion left arm bone? Her voice showed both concern and the weight of responsibility. 10 minutes might not sound long, but at an auction this level, a lot could change in that time. The reputation of the Starlight Auction House, especially with a royal princess like Shujuju as chief auctioneer, depended on flawless handling. It was me. Shu Yan stood and walked to Hanroro's side. Princess Juju, I'll be brief. He explained calmly. My second spirit is the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion, and I possess a left arm bone produced by an Ice Jade Scorpion. The quality of my bone is far superior to the one you are selling. The Ice Jade Scorpion clan specializes in ultimate ice. Their spirit bones carry that domination over ice. Only an ultimate ice spirit master can absorb them. If an ordinary spirit master forces absorption, at best they'll be grievously injured. At worst, they die. I thought you should be aware. His eyes met Shujuju's, and in that instant the princess seemed to glimpse a phantom, a colossal scorpion spirit flaring up behind Shu Yan. The room's temperature felt to her like a cold that touched bone and soul. She shivered. You have twin spirits, she managed to say. She recovered herself, though her pupils narrowed. Yazi, the true dragon spirit, already a super existence at the peak of beast spirit, was terrifying enough. Now there was a second spirit with an ultimate ice attribute. The revelation struck her like a blow. Time, however, did not allow her to linger in shock. Shujuju took a steadying breath, then spoke with formal courtesy. Thank you for the information. Time is limited. I must handle this matter at once. If I have caused any disrespect, I ask for your understanding. She turned and hurried away, the elegant auctioneer close behind. Shu Yan sat back on the soft sofa, unruffled. Hanroro sat beside him and asked quietly, Yan, what do you plan to do? Will you extort them like you did at the United Auction House last time? Shu Yan pinched Hanroro's cheek and smiled. The Starlight Auction House is not the United Auction House, and theoretically, this spirit bone doesn't require many tricks. Just watch. Ningtian hesitated on the sidelines. She had considered offering gold to get closer to Shu Yan and the others. Money was the one thing she had in abundance, but this situation was charged with old history. Ningtian knew well the burdens her mother, former sect master of the 9 treasure-glazed tile school, had carried. For the sake of the sect, her mother had suppressed herself for years. Ningtian had grown up early, understanding that the same fate could fall to her as heir. She said nothing. The bidding began. As in the original progression, someone immediately put down 30 million gold, a sum that drove others from the contest. Shu Yan smirked. It was clearly the Star Luo Empire intervening. The Starlight Auction House was aligned with the Empire, and this bid was a formality, a way to retain the spirit bone rather than let it sell. With the Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone effectively bought back, the auction rolled on toward its final item. Shu Yan's curiosity flickered. Without the Snow Empress embryo as the finale, what treasure would the Starlight Auction House unveil as the last piece? The final item at an auction was always the most valuable. If the Ice Jade Scorpion bone was second last, the true finale had to be worth far more. A small frisson of unease stirred in Shu Yan. Shujuju reappeared on the screen in a golden gown. The room straightened. Wearing the highest grade auction gown signaled the next item could fetch over 100 million gold, an incomprehensible sum that could buy several medium cities and far exceeds what most even rich organizations could casually spend. Shujuju's demeanor hardened into solemnity and authority. From my attire, you can tell how precious the next item is, she announced. This is an object I have only seen once in my life. Its value cannot truly be measured in gold. It may be capable of guiding a spirit master to a realm that exists only in legend. She paused, voice lowering with weight. In short, this is a supreme treasure that may very well hold the secret to becoming a divinity. The word divinity rippled through the private rooms. Everyone present was no ordinary guest. They had deep backgrounds and influence. They knew legends. Beyond the human peak limit Douluo realm lay a realm that had been whispered about for 10,000 years. The divinity. Shrek Academy retained its honored place largely because it had produced 7 divinities whose feats reshaped history. A chance at divinity was the most intoxicating thing a spirit master could imagine. As the silvery, 9-hued light brightened, Shu Yan's pupils tightened. A wave of recognition hit him. This treasure felt fated to him. When the light subsided, the item was revealed. From afar, it looked like a rhomboid gemstone, softly silver and like a miniature moon. Its surface was carved with intricate patterns, mountains, rivers, stars, while faint starlight shimmered around it, as though it could tear through space with a casual sweep. The gem was set into a chunk of silver-like metal with only a sliver exposed, but its aura was not of the mortal world. It radiated something more like immortal qi, beyond the scope of ordinary spirit power. "Distinguished guests," Sujuju said, "this treasure is called the Heart of Space. It was discovered by an imperial expert from the Star Luo Empire in an ancient secret realm during the war 4,000 years ago. The imperial family has studied it for generations, but its mysteries remain unresolved." She continued, voice grave. "We can confirm this object is tied to divinity. The energy around its surface exceeds the concept of spirit power. The energy within is unimaginably immense. About half a year ago, the Heart of Space experienced a fluctuation. That fluctuation triggered a massive spatial storm that required 4 super Douluo and 6 titled Douluo to suppress. That gives you an idea of its danger and power. We can boldly conjecture the Heart of Space may be a divine artifact left in the mortal world by a divinity. 10,000 years ago, Tang San gained recognition from the sea god's vast sea cosmic shroud and inherited a god position. If someone can gain recognition from the Heart of Space, they may be able to inherit a divinity's god position and step into that supreme realm." Her words landed like thunder. Xiao Hongchen of the Sun Moon Royal Soul Guiding Academy sprang to his feet, eyes bright. Backed by Mingde Hall and the Imperial Sun Moon family, he had made up his mind. He would possess this divine artifact. He would use it to walk straight toward divinity. Others held the same thought. The sound of gold flowing into the auction rooms swelled like a tide. This would be a battle of riches on a monumental scale. In Private Room 7, after the initial shock, all eyes turned to Shu Yan. Wu Ming smacked the table without pretense. "Yan, this is tailor-made for you. A spatial divine artifact, possibly the token of a divinity's legacy. We can't let this go." Everyone agreed. Ma Xiaotao urged, "She's right. This absolutely can't fall to the Sun Moon Empire." Princess Juju said this final item can be paid in kind. "Let's pool resources and secure it. The Academy won't blame us when it learns the truth." Ning Tian brightened. "We can't let Mingde Hall take it. I still have tens of millions in gold and sect vouchers. In terms of wealth, Mingde Hall may be superior, but this is the original continent's 3 kingdoms. I don't believe they can dominate utterly." She hoped Shu Yan would accept their plan. She wanted him to owe the 9-treasure glazed tile school a favor. His favor was worth more than gold. She had come to trust him. Shu Yan scanned the group. After a slight pause, he raised a hand to quiet them. When the room fell silent, he stood. "I must have this treasure," he said, "but I don't want to pay for it." A murmur rippled through them. Shu Yan smiled faintly. "Instead of paying such a monstrous sum to bid, I have a simpler method." Everyone's pupils narrowed. None were foolish. They all guessed what he meant. "Yan, you're going to hijack it?" Hanroro's fingers flexed a little. Shu Yan nodded. "Among the forces here, besides junior sister Ning's 9-treasure glazed tile school, nobody rivals Mingde Hall in wealth. The selection of this treasure feels like a trap set by the Star Luo officialdom for Mingde Hall. I plan to fish in troubled waters." Gluttonous Douluo, Xuanzi, who had been watching from the sidelines, stepped forward with a long face. "Boy, do you know Mingde Hall's goods aren't easy to seize," he warned. Shu Yan's voice was calm. "Elder Xuan, this is my chance to become a divinity. I've already received a recognition. The Heart of Space is to me what the vast sea cosmic shroud was to Tang San. I must get it, no matter what." Xuanzi's eyes widened in disbelief. Ma Xiaotao and the others froze, mouths open. Then Xuanzi's expression became grave. He grabbed Shu Yan's shoulder and demanded in a low voice, "You're not joking, are you?" Shu Yan nodded. "I wouldn't make such a tiresome joke." A rush of surprise and delight flashed across Xuanzi's face. "Boy, you've shocked this old man. in a good way. When will you act? I'll cooperate fully. I knew you were destined for greatness. Shu Yan stopped him with a quiet shake of his head. Elder Xuan, please don't get involved. Your spirit is too conspicuous. If you make a move, your identity will be revealed. Even if a single survivor notices, the consequences will be significant. As for the hijack itself, I can handle it. Xuanzi's brow tightened. Your strength is formidable, but you must realize Mingde Hall will use special covert routes to transport an item of this level. There will be powerful escorts, at least 4 or more rank 9 Douluo involved. I won't allow you to go alone. A divinity inheritor like Shu Yan would be priceless if the Sun Moon Empire learned of him. They would spare no effort to eliminate him. That alone made Xuanzi determined that Shu Yan should not act solo. Shu Yan smiled slightly in response to the concern. I'm not alone. If I truly went all out, killing a limit Douluo would be no great feat for me, let alone striking at a few rank 9 Douluo. Xuanzi's frown deepened into open astonishment. Shu Yan gave him the feeling of a great beast slowly parting its lips, revealing rows of fangs meant to tear everything apart. What exactly is your confidence? Xuanzi asked after a moment. Shu Yan's gaze flicked just beyond Xuanzi. He chuckled and answered, My confidence? It's far away in the sky, yet right before your eyes. Xuanzi stiffened. Every hair on his body rose as if electricity had passed through him. He turned, only to meet a pair of eyes like 10,000 years of ice, cold and ancient. A voice, calm and hollow, filled the space. Shu Yan's confidence comes from us. Do you still have any objections?